Original people. They go west, they go east, they go north, they go south. Places we go, we bring divine wine right from the source. Water to wine, BB Nation birth from my new warrior crew. It birth from my new big body girls. It birth from my new boom boom drum. It beat from my new. We is your people, original people. They go west, they go east, they go north, they go south. Where are my people? Right here. My beautiful people. Right here. Ancient of days. Right here. Faces engraved. Right here. Birth from the spirit. Right here. Just here for a minute. Right here. Moon from a cloud. Right here. Sing it out loud. Oh. Broken, scattered, but we still not forgotten. Yes, we scatter, no matter. Right from the source, we scatter, no matter. We is your people, original people. They go west, they go east, they go north, they go south. Right here. If you don't know where you're from, right here. Talk to your elder. Right here. And if you don't know where to go, right here. Talk to your elder. Right here. We build the kingdom. Right here. 1,000,000 families strong. Right here. Living the culture. Right here. Of giants from the stars.
Does it really taste
Yeah, right? It's
good?
good.
So that means it's not fresh?
You
They
guys
just
get
fried
it.
it.
Oh,
You gonna get it.
I thought
Right,
if
I'm
it
like, how can it
tasted
get more
fishy,
fresh? Right.
that it means
It was just
wasn't
alive 5
fresh
minutes
or
ago.
something.
Nah.
Did you just
the
rip
more
all the
water taste
skin
you
off?
have,
Yeah.
generally,
This is, look what he just did.
Yeah, you took all the skin off.
Okay.
Now it's not gonna hold together.
How you cook? That's what I
You
was
might
saying.
want
That.
to play with a plate at this point.
How it
Yeah.
tastes?
I'll get a plate.
That's what I was
some-
saying when you was cooking it. You wasn't paying attention, so you.
Peace, everyone.
Peace.
Sure.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We are missing somebody.
We sure are.
We are. But peace, everyone. Greetings. I don't know if you heard all of that beautiful excitement in the background. We had shared a little bit of a clip from last retreat. This was our retreat in Georgia, right? So we really wanted to just showcase a little snippet and a peek behind the veil. So Safta is not here. She'll be back, I'm sure. What happened. But we're dealing with technology, and today we're going to talk about technology. But let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sister Maria.
I'm Ima Sequoia. Shabbat Shalom. Peace, everyone.
All right. We're waiting for our third sister to join. Have wisdom here today because, and it's so appropriate because, yes, today is understanding insight for all being one. Understand? All three of us here. He says it is choppy. Is it still choppy now? Am I choppy when I speak now?
You sound clear. When I mute, you sound clear. But I'm just
See what they say, because I sound clear to myself and you sound clear too, but I think it comes across choppy to the audience in the chat. So we gotta work with the mic. We have to. Good. Okay, so I'm gonna mute and well, I'll stay off mute. You can speak. Let me see if happens.
okay. Yeah,
I'm not-
oh, we have Shopta Naya.
Can you hear Ima Sequoia?
Yes, I can hear. I can hear. It's choppy when I'm off mute, but I'll mute so I can hear you.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if you're choppy.
Okay, I sound clear to myself, but
Right, but everybody else.
can you all?
We'll wait while staff gets ready to join us. But yeah, today we are going to dig into the text Stolen Focus. Chief gave us the text in one of the episodes from this season. I think it's episode 83. So, we thought that it made sense to respect the piece of work and respect all of the work and coordination and collaboration that he has done, and all of the sharing and the knowledge that he has given from the episodes, and take a peek into the text and dig into it and have a deeper dialogue around it. You don't feel as if you did not read the text that you would not be able to contribute to the conversation. You definitely can, and you'll see how there's so many different ways that you could jump in on this, because it is affecting all of us, right? But we're just gonna jump in and offer an affirmation. This evening, we affirm we are, walking in wisdom. We affirm here in the name of our Elohim, and we'll allow the Elohim to, permeate the space, right? Permeate our minds and our hearts, and allow for us to open our mouths and on up in here and sharing the words of the Most High, aligning with the will of the Most High. So if it be the Most High's will that you share in the chat, or you come on up and you share in the stream, you do so. We will that we are able to honor this evening and just fellowship and build and show people what it is like for real community and real nation builders to, get together and share the knowledge that they have and build together. So, that's what we affirm for today. And Ima Sequoia.
Absolutely, it's always a gift to commune with my fellow ALites. So I also want to give thanks to our Chief Jagna, Chief Yuya, for allowing us to speak in this space, and speak on this public platform. So I just wanted to give thanks for that as well. So yeah, I will that everyone is nice and relaxed and came into the Sabbath. They all prepared, ready to, relax, and it's always a good time when we build. So I see Shopton Naya.
He's ready. So keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. I know you selected a great piece. I was saying, let's keep it moving. I know you selected a piece for us.
I do want to give a scriptural offering. So I want to read Philippians 2:2-5. So, fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Yeshua. All right. So right there in the scripture, how to be like the Most High. So, all right. Shop the Naya. Peace.
Peace.
Welcome back.
They don't want me to be great every single time. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Peace. Give thanks to the Most High. Jeez, for letting us be here to convene, to just share and build. Give thanks to Yah for allowing us the space to do so as well. So I apologize that I done crashed in. So I'll be jumping in.
We talking about technology today, so
exactly, and the way that we are distracted. Clearly, my focus has been distracted. Oh my goodness! So as I was trying to get refocused to get back on this live to share with my new family, in the book Stolen Focus, he actually shared a story in chapter 1, how he had taken his nephew to Graceland, and they were doing this tour of Graceland. So instead of a human guiding them around Graceland, they were given earbuds and an iPad. So it was very impersonal and very like isolated. So like they're walking around and touring this place, and everyone is like, looking down like this at their device. And then at some part, they got into this particular room. And let's just say they were supposed to be looking at the plant on the right side of the room and how marvelous it was or how large it was. And instead of everybody looking up and looking to the right, like, oh, wow, look at this plant, they were like this looking at the plant. And so he was just like, hey, there's a new way to swipe. It's called turning your neck. Like, because everyone is looking down at the phone and not focused on what's going on around them, their surroundings, or anything like that. So that was just, that really, really stood out to me in that book. I was like, yes, I've seen that so many times, so many times in so many different ways. Instead of people being engaged with one another, they're focused on their devices, which are distracting them from being connected with one another because they're looking at a device. And even though you may look up and say, oh, look at what I'm looking at, it's not real connection because you're still like involved in your device.
Right. That is so true. That is so true. Like sometimes you'll see people, they'll be around people like, hey y'all. And it's like, you're not connecting with the people in a room, but you got this phone, like connecting with the people online, like your followers, it's crazy.
So I don't become the top chopper. I saw that, Master Menulek, in the chat. It's interesting you shared the story, and I think of similar stories, not just stories that I've read about, but experiences, right? Things that I've experienced. I remember preparing to vend. That's when I was vending, my cheesecakes and my crackers and all these, yummy raw things, and stayed up like probably hours, like stayed up for days rather, not hours, days. But I remember looking into the backyard, or my brother was looking into the backyard, and he said, wow, what's happening? And I was like, that's a party. It's like, no, that's not really a party. It's like, yes, food, drink, music, party. What do you mean? And then when I look down, I see every music, food, there's a pool, everything, and everybody's literally like this, scrolling. Every single person, young people, old people. And that when I read that story in Harry's book, I realized, wow, this is something that we experience all the time. And I charge you all to, at this moment, pause and just think about a time when you've experienced that. And you may be the onlooker, you may be watching people in a fishbowl go through that, but there are times when you catch yourself and you realize, oh no, I'm in the fishbowl doing the same thing with everybody else, and it really does take away from our ability to socialize and to engage. So I wanted to share that story. There are others too, but that's one of many.
I know as we were building, like I remember like being like out in a restaurant and seeing people that look like they were on a date. So like the man is on this side of the table, woman's on this side, and they're both just on their phones like this. And then every now and then you'll see a like they're sharing what's on the screen, but they're not having real dialogue, sharing, getting to know one another. It's just when we in the same space, we both got to eat. So it's like just, but it's, you see it almost everywhere, almost everywhere. And that's one of the things, what was he talking I don't remember what chapter it was in, but he spoke about this experience of the Blue Lagoon. And the man was in the water taking a selfie, like, I'm living my best life. He was like, the motto should be like, I tried to live, but I got distracted. Because it's like, okay, you out here, you supposed to be living your best life, but are you really? Because you're taking photos of yourself, you're trying to send it to other people. Are you really engaged in this experience in the moment? Like,
That was not me though. Oh my gosh. I don't know what happened. Safta is let me see if she'll come back. Let's see if she'll come back. But I actually paused to put, and I would, can you all hear me? Let me know. I paused to put the quote up because I thought it was very profound. I thought it makes sense to think about that as a motto. You know, I tried to live, but I got distracted. Because what in chapter 1, what Harry's actually saying is that the distractions of technology, the devices that we have, these oh my goodness. But we're back. I'm sure you can hear me. I will that you can hear me in the chat, and that we're not having any more tech issues today. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy, right? One of the things he speaks about is the how closely connected we are to technology, so close to the point where everything we do is directly connected to technology. Actually, you know, our day-to-day lives literally depends on all of online media. Think about it. You know, they literally think about the connections. If you have a business, whether small or large, you have to market, you have to get on, or you have to pay someone. But if it's a small business, trust me, you're doing everything yourself, right? When it comes to, matter of fact, our community, the one of the major ways that our community engages with each other is online. Like, we literally, I won't say what platform we use, but we use a platform in order to connect all of the conversations we have, all of the women who build together on a Sabbath during our womb build and the men's build. They're using an online medium. So it seems as if our lives are utterly dependent on all online mediums for everything. And so it really causes a distraction when the things that you have to do are tied to the thing that's distracting you, if you understand what I mean. So we have to put like hard barriers and restrictions in place. And I'll pause because I saw you unmuting, Ima.
Yeah, that's so real. Like, I went for a walk, the other day, and I found myself like on my phone wanting to like, oh, I can get some work done while I'm walking. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm totally distracted. I was like, put this phone down and sit in nature and enjoy it. Like, what are you doing? Like, so yeah, I think it's an active, because we're so surrounded by technology at this point. I can say, like, for me, it's like I think we have to be like conscious and say to ourselves, like, okay, let me, like you said, set those boundaries and limit like how much we're engaged with technology, like, because we have to use it at this point. I just found out about an app called, I think it's Google Homes, and I was looking at it, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Your whole life can be, attached to this AR or whatever it's called. But it's like it'll wake you up with playing the news. It'll wake you up with music. You walk in the home, it'll turn the light on for you. I'm like, wow, this is insane. This is crazy. So yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I see some comments. Anu Radio says, I've been practicing being present using intentional breathing. It was amazing how quickly my thoughts wandered to either the past or future events. Breathing brought everything back to present. Yeah, I can relate to that one. Yeah. Okothi Yafe says, walking and phoning is how you walk into traffic or trouble. Ooh. I remember I walked into a pole doing something like that. I was so embarrassed. Everybody was laughing. Like all of my relatives was laughing at me. So I was looking down and I bumped right into a pole. Yeah. Yeah.
I am Shabbat Shalom to you. Yeah. Welcome for joining us. You missed all the on-time behavior and everything else too. I just wanted to say that. But I am actually trying to reconnect with Imanaya. It wasn't me. It's not because I put the slide on that she got cut off. It was her internet. I just wanted to say that. But she'll try to rejoin as soon as she can, because again, her internet is out, but we're gonna, continue. We're gonna continue to build, and you check the replay. Okay, we'll continue to build on some of the content. You're so right. You're so right, Anu Radio, when it comes to being intentional, But I have a question for you. With all the intention that we have, right? There's some major things that are that was happening in chapter 1 that we really need to get to. One of them was the idea that our lives are intertwined with the online platforms, right? We need it so much so that we are dependent on it, so it seems. And life is also so very fast-paced, right? And it's in what is indicative of that is how much we say, oh my gosh, the time went so fast, the strong went by so fast. But then compare it to the fact that when you engage with, let's say, Instagram or Facebook, and you engage with things like stories and reels, these things, these little short clips go by so fast. So what is happening, and Harry actually speaks about this later on in chapter 3 or 5, where he gives a breakdown of how the way TV forces us to think, the way Instagram forces us to think, the way Facebook forces us to think. It's like frame. It's almost like it has our lives in frames and boxes, and then we begin to integrate it into the real life that we have, and that becomes the standard, unfortunately. So reels are really quick, stories are really quick, and so I think the same thing happens when we don't slow down on radio and we're not intentional about our experiences and what's happening. And when we begin to say, okay, I want to go for a walk, but then we turn on the radio and now we're kicking, like we dancing down the street, which is not a problem, but you're taking away from the music of the birds, the music of the wind wrestling through the trees that may make you look up for a moment, and then you see the mothership coming down and you were like, oh wow, I wasn't prepared. I'm joking. But it just goes to show that there's he's speaking about the fact that we are no longer able to pay attention, and because of that we can't think deeply. And as we were preparing for this, we had a lot of deep conversation about how a lot of this spills over into our lives, but the lives of our children as well. So I'll pause, and I know you probably want to get a word in.
All right, I was thinking about like all of the cartoons, like they're created like sort of like reels. They're very flashy, very quick, very fast to cater to like the ADHD that many children have, because they're so overstimulated, But this technology is, it has taken us away from nature, I would say. I think about the segment, Chief, I did on anti-nature. And I think about like how technology has done that for some people who are like overly like addicted to it and can't seem to move away from it. I remember hearing somebody say like, oh, I'm addicted to social media. So when I'm at home laying with my spouse, I can't even give the proper attention because I'm on my phone. It's like, So it comes into those intimate moments that are supposed to be sacred and intimate. There go the technology is in there.
So,
But
so
yeah.
I have a question for everyone, so we could, keep it moving and flowing. And so the question I really have is this: what prevents you from, sticking to the self-discipline aspect of it? What prevents you from doing that? Because I know self-discipline is an ongoing battle, right? I mean, let's think about Ramadan. How many of us are able to like really strategically move through Ramadan with self-discipline and focus, right? That, I mean, in many ways there are different things that people give up during that time, and maybe one of yours was technology or not, who knows. But it's just the idea of I just thought about and I'm reading some of the notes too because after Safta is not here, so I want to get her point across for her in a sense. But yeah, I think about that question: what is the problem, or what issues do you notice with self-discipline and the inability to actually stick to the plan when you decide, okay, you know what, the notifications, that's what's actually pulling me back into the cipher of Instagram, or the cipher of social media. What do you do then? How do you maintain that self-discipline? What about when you decide, okay, I'm going to put these restrictions on the phone at 10 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock what's going to happen is everything that is a social media platform grays out, and when that when it grays out, you can't listen to it, you can't play it, you can't interact with it. I will say even my phone actually shuts down all platforms. It shuts down any ability to play sound or music or anything beyond 10 o'clock, literally. And I have to go into the system to change it, So I was just thinking and wondering about, like for the chat, what do you think why do you think we find it hard to cut back on the internet time that we expose ourselves to? And I repeat it, why do you think it's difficult for us to cut back on that internet time? And you can answer to that, Ima.
Yeah.
Koya, sorry, or
Yeah, I think it's difficult because what Emma Shopta Knight was going to speak on was like how slowing down helps us to focus. So I think when everything is still and becomes quiet, then we are confronted with ourselves and what we've been running away from the entire time. So I think we keep ourselves distracted so that we never have a moment to sit in that silent space with the creator and face ourselves, face that thing that we're running from. The whole reason why we are gravitating towards these addictions that keep us distracted. And I think these addictions, it can be more than technology. It can be pretty much anything. TV, I did a segment on addictions. There are so many different addictions out there. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we don't want to face what we're running from. And right. That's one of the things that Ramadan did for me. Like I was able to okay, I don't have any distractions. So I had to just sit there with myself like, what would I do with my time if I don't have all these distractions? And I start to think like, oh, I can do this, I can be that. And I start to see like, oh, you have not been following the commandments. You've been distracted, not on purpose, not moving in purpose. So
I see the responses coming in. But let's pause and greet everyone, because we didn't even do that. We just jumped right in, and then all the tech issues and so on. But that's all right. We are great. We're going to continue to be great. Yes, the Most High will. So we greet you, Master Menelek, the first. We greet you, Abaras Kush, Sister Yafe, Alpha Woman Now with Yakira Eden, and Radio Margie Marie Art, welcome. Well, you know what? I'm gonna take back my welcome because you're always here. You're not new, but welcome anyway.
Right.
Welcome anyway. But you're here. You're always here. It's great to see you. You know, the consistency is beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sister Yafe, we greeted you already. Chief Yuya in the space, and Jason, Aki Jason, thank you for being in space. And welcome too, but you're always here too. So yeah. Master Menelek says, he says, while I was out running last night, my phone kept buzzing, and after about a mile, I had to put it on silent because I kept looking. Even though I knew I couldn't read them, I kept checking. So I need to cut off anything distracting and focus. Yeah. Why do you think you were looking? I wonder about that. Why do you think you were looking, even though you knew inherently, you knew that you couldn't check it? Why did you continue to do that?
Right. Right.
Okay, he says, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying peace to Abu Harut, who came and joined us.
Right. Okay, so Master Manila continues. He says, I realized I wasn't totally focused on where I was going because I was focused on being done than I was on the movement itself. Right. The things that we have, the tasks, the beautiful experiences, not the tasks, the beautiful experiences that we have written out in our battle plan for the day, or the strong, they become this thing that we have to just do. And because they become a thing that we have to do, we don't pause. Everything is moving so quickly, and Harry actually talks about that in the second chapter, because the way this text is written out, he actually gives the story, prefaces everything with the story that's Imanaya gave, but then he goes on to list a bunch of the different causes for the lack of attention. And his focus is the way technology takes away from that, right? So I realized that, technology is such a big piece, and so much information is dumped into the platforms and the different online pathways that we use to access information, that there's such a huge influx that we are under pressure to actually explore all of that information constantly. And I mean, we literally feel pressured into doing so. So when you hear those buzzes and that notification, apart from it doing a psychologically programming us, right, to constantly check in to get that little gratification of seeing a visual or hearing music or whatever, there's also that idea that you have to constantly keep abreast with everything. So because of that, there's that constant need to, there's a buzz, let me check. There's a buzz, let me check. So the focus wanes. And because of the speed of everything, real life actually becomes boring. And I'm saying that not because I think so, but I've heard people say that. And I hear them say that because I realize that that's the slowing down and taking in and ingesting everything in your experience every day. That it takes if they're not doing that, unfortunately, that's when it's like, oh my gosh, this is boring. And I remember when we were preparing, Safta Naya shared a story with us about a young man he was sitting there with his dad, and she said to him, you want to tell the story? You remember it? You want to tell it?
I don't remember in great detail, so I wouldn't recall it.
It's all right. Let me check to see who else. I think a couple of other people are sharing. Well, no, nobody else is sharing. All right. So we'll just keep moving.
I just wanted to add to that piece that that reminds me of like information horn, like when you just you have to know, you just have to consume, and you want more information. And we're taught like you only can retain 20% of it. So you have to apply it for it to really stick. And I just wanted to read the scripture, Psalms 119:15. I will meditate in thy precepts and have respect unto thy ways. So this scripture speaks about meditating on the Most High's commandments and having respect for the ways of Yah. And so I think about the segment Chief did on power, position of power, and he speaks about self-awareness and how self-awareness is the only awareness. And when you become self-aware, you become aware of all. So I can see how slowing ourselves down allows us to focus and be in that awareness or in that presence, or meditative space. And so I think many people run away from that present moment because, like, again, when the noise dies down, it's just you and the creator. And so I'll share a story. I remember when I became interested in playing the piano for the first time. I don't know where it came from, but I remember I was totally in the moment. And I remember feeling free in that moment. And I thought to myself, oh, that happiness that you thought you had to wait to get was always here all along. It was never something you had to strive for. So I always thought that, oh, I'll be happy when this occurs, or I'll be happy when I finally achieve this, or if I can just be this way, then I can see myself being happy. But in that moment, just learning how to, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know how to play piano, but I was just playing like, wow, this just feels so good in this moment. And I felt so free. Like there was no excuses existed and no obstacles existed. And I just thought like, wow, what have I been doing? Like, and I realized it was my mindset and how I was looking at life, constantly wanting to go after something or wait to be a certain thing when empowerment is in the moment and you can be that thing in the moment. So I just share that story because I remember that moment like, wow, like I was content. I was happy. And it wasn't because I waited for something for something to happen, So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Okay, we have an answer in the chat. We have Chief Yuya. I don't have a challenge pulling away from the screens, but I think people have difficulty abstaining because the more real world is disappointing. The screen is a customized pleasure ride.
That point. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
that point is very powerful because it creates they're showing you here's what we think is the standard for liberty or life, right? Not us, because we living on different something, right? It doesn't mean that many of us, even though we're living a different culture, we don't subconsciously hold that as a standard though, because what is the music you enjoy listening to? Because sometimes that shows you where you are, where you're invested. But I agree in that the screen is a customized pleasure ride because it shows you, this is our standard. This is where we think, what do you call them? Influencers. Why that word? Influencer. Right? So here you have an influencer joyriding all over, traveling the world, taking photos. And this is why in chapter 1, Harry says, this era's motto may as well be, I tried living, but I got distracted, because he was actually talking about a story where he went to the pool, the jacuzzi, something, or wherever. Right. And there were just these young people there, and everybody's on their phone filming, talking about, I'm living the life. Look at me. I'm here and wherever, rather than putting the phone away and actually experiencing it, So what Chief is speaking to reminds me of the way we do get away. I have watched people's videos and I'm like, oh, wow, you're in where? Dubai? How about be in Dubai too? And it becomes a serious opportunity for people to live and experience. And when we were talking last night, preparing for this, one of the things we discussed was something Aki Zach always points out, that our brain doesn't know the difference between an actual lived experience and watching that experience and in taking in the imagery. So it equates the two, right? But your body knows, because your body has a whole different exhilarating experience. So what Chief is speaking of here is that idea that people get to stare and gaze and enjoy what everybody else is doing because they don't have that in their life. Like I don't have the trips to, Maui and every couple of strongs, and I don't have all those photos. So let me experience that through someone else. And the sad thing is, it takes away from our ability to actually fulfill the dreams and the intentions and the plans that we have, because you can scroll and scroll and scroll your life away, right? The average amount of time, I'll throw that up on the screen, because when we were talking, we thought that was absolutely mind-blowing, that the average amount of time that a person, and this is just for people who have the Apple Screen Time feature, right? So that's only a small portion of the people, the American people. But what it showed was that the average number of time that an average American spends on their phone is 3 hours and 15 minutes. And this is at the time when this book came out. But I actually think that time has increased, has increased by probably, I don't know, maybe doubled almost. So I really think it's important to think about just how much time we spend on something like like our internet, like the internet, and in increasing the amount of discipline that we have, pulling away from it, but also being able to recognize that that is someone else's experience, it isn't mine. And if I'm disappointed in my own real world and the experience I have the opportunity to change that. Aki said, yes, he says it all the time. He says it all the time. I will attribute it to you as the original the original Dan Gagan, because you came up with it, but I always hear him repeat it all the time. So oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I think Imanaya Saftanaya is back here. So if you want to jump to the person, you can.
Yeah, that what Chief shared reminds me of like why television was created. You know, um, we just have social media now, and technology, but it's like the new TV. But I think about the programming, like that's how a lot of us was programmed, by sitting and watching TV. So the programming continues, it continues, and it looks a little different, but nonetheless, I think it's like still the same, same programming that's happening. Peace, shout to Naya.
Peace. I'm gonna try for as long as I can. I'm not even gonna. But I'm back. I don't know what's going on. I couldn't even listen in. Oh my gosh. But yeah, tons of programming on TV. And it actually reminds me of that. We got into a conversation last night. I remember I shared the part that was so disturbing to me about how, I think it was in Germany, they were trying to program young children to be homosexuals for like this political party, the candidate that was running for this political party, and they were going to do it by taking images of babies, young children sucking on bottles and replacing the bottle images with penises. And it's like, what? Like, what? But it led me to the other quote that he said, like, you can be reprogrammed in any way that a clever designer wants. So it's like they're thinking all these different things. Well, how can I get them to do this? How can I do that? And then you putting these images in front of people's faces that they're addicted to these screens or constantly looking at certain things. And it's like, I think Okoti Maria, you said it, like you start to think, I do not have the chat open. I'm not going to open it. But you start to think of something that you do that's so natural, sucking from a teat, like your mother's breast or a bottle or whatever it may be. And now you have this distorted, perverted image of something different. But that's the agenda. Like someone wants you to be something else than what you're supposed to be. That's what came to mind as I was able to get back connected.
And that connects with the programming that happens every time you get a buzz. Every time a notification goes off, it is another form of programming you, pulling you back into that world that Chief is saying, that customized pleasure ride. Like it keep the words you use. Oh my gosh, I can't help it sometimes. I have to laugh. You know, the way you put those words together, the screen is a customized pleasure ride, right? I was about to add joy ride. It's wrong. But yeah, that buzzing is constantly there, and they make it there's let me tell you how wicked it is. They make it so that you have to dig into the deepest parts of the phone settings and set it to take it off, and you also have to go to the app and dig into those settings. And you know what they do? They hide those settings so far, it's not even funny, because by the time you get to it, you're so frustrated, you're like, never mind, because if I gotta do this every single time, it's not even worth it. I'm telling you, man, it's bad. But somebody wants your mind. That's how much they're gonna go through that process of studying us using marketing strategy and all of that to know how to program our minds, because it's so precious, you know, and so powerful. So as you were saying that, I just thought of how they use the notifications to kind of program us, to ping us back into it all the time.
Right. I look at the customized pleasure ride because, like, they customize the advertisement according to what you search, what you look at most often, and it comes on your feed. And so they want you to just sit there, just looking at it, all the time. But something will catch your attention, all the things you like, all the things you look at. So it's definitely customized to each person, what they're interested in. On New Radio said that reminds me of the film Last Strong, the charge to experience things as the first time, rather than speeding past them and assuming you experienced everything already. Yeah.
That I immediately thought about the moment where he was eating, and what was it? Socrates, he called him.
Yeah.
I think he told him, he was like, if you slow down, you can, if you slow down, you can taste it.
Right.
But you're not tasting anything. Like, what in the world are you doing? You're just ingesting just to have some sustenance. Like, it could be a whole bunch of different flavors in there that you're just missing out on.
Right. Right. And we're talking about the film The Peaceful Warrior. And I remember the scene where he was walking up the mountain. He's like, oh, you was going to show me something. And he was like, when he got up there, he was like, what the? He was like, where is it? He was like, he was happy for the journey. But then when he got up there, he was like upset. Like, there's nothing up there, just a rock. And he was like, well, you were happy though, right? And he was like, yeah, I was happy, but I thought because you were going to surprise me with something. It's like, that reminds me of what I was sharing, like that thinking you have to get to a destination to be happy, when really, no, it's the journey that you're going through that, So yeah, that was a really good movie. I like that movie. It just shows like one of those students that, the process of just like learning how to be, like when you're ready to be a student, when you humble up, we're always taught like you need to humble up, especially like if you think about coming into ANU, like we have to humble up and be receptive and do away with, our history, if you will, so that we are receptive and open to learn something new or what we need to change, So yeah, I love that film. So we have Akoti Yafe. I would agree. The rhythm knows what I like because it has been trained to know what I like. Back like a dog, but who is the dog? I think she meant bark like a dog.
I thought about Coming to America when I read that.
Yeah, I think that's connected to what the brothers share later on. I think it's lower down that Jason shares about the customized pleasure ride, just like you pulled that piece. Ema Sequoia, he says, and then I'll go back up just because the thread is kind of continuous. He kind of says the custom pleasure ride from the screen really pulls me in, especially this strong when I was looking up metallurgy. of certain knife metals, the algorithms kept sending me more knives to buy. Oh my goodness, that's the other thing. That customized pleasure ride is, again, it's all marketing. It's not even because and I get it. We're exposed to so much information that we can't even stay focused on one piece because we feel like we have to get to all the 10 different things about that one topic that we probably looked up or searched, but what the point that I wanted to bring forward here in this is that stolen focus and the fact that we can't pay attention is really just to get our minds to focus on the buying something. It's to get us to focus on spending money, right? Chief also, he speaks of consumerism, right? It's all consumerism. And so it's constantly about pulling, or you taking, but you never do anything with it. There's no producing. It's only for you to buy, because imagine you looked up something that was informational, and then all of a sudden you have buy this. Like, who says I want to buy a knife? Maybe I'm just trying to get knowledge about knives. Maybe I don't want to buy a knife, but that's the way they pull us in. That customization is what why the algorithm is built the way it is. And I think there's this documentary that I remember we looked at when I was in Jersey at that time. We looked at a documentary about social media and the way they go through that process of pinging people. I'm sorry for saying pinging in that way, but pinging your phone when they realize, wait, you're actually walking in proximity to someone that like all of a sudden the algorithm or whatever is coded starts pinging, and you get notifications and things like that. Why do we need that? Like to pull you back into that cipher all the time. So it's just, there's so much to talk about. I'm just gonna pause and put myself on mute because it's so much.
Even what you said about that, like the one topic, I thought about another part that he mentioned. Like, I'm not gonna say how far back, but it used to be a time where we could go on the internet and scroll a page, scroll a page on Google, and make a choice to go to the next page. Like, we don't have that option anymore. And I remember he was saying, like, in the programming, he figured out how to make infinite scroll. So it's like you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I thought about it, like, even when I open a web browser page, there's like this one rectangle where I can click the arrow to keep going, scrolling through there. But it's like 15 other little boxes on the same page, and I can continue scrolling down that one page forever, just forever. But like you said, they're collecting data to see what you're clicking on, what you're spending the most time on. Because he was, I think he said something about asking them how much information they could collect from certain parts to be able to feed into your phone, the algorithm or something like that, to make sure you continue scrolling because you're seeing things that you like to see, or seeing things that's going to keep you engaged, because that's how they make all of their money. So, like, it's, in a sense, we just keeping other people rich because we are unfocused and distracted.
Capitalizing too. They're capitalizing on their knowledge of psychology. That's the scary part too. It's like you yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. Go ahead, Eva.
Oh, I was just going to read Brother Jason's comment. As we speak, I am on the screen watching and listening to this segment. Um, let's see here. He said, yeah, every single moment is unique. A line from the film. Yes. And then Master Menelek said, right. Thought about that moment as I was running as well. Even though the night was still, I remember the character Socrates saying, there is never nothing happening. Right. Right. And then Chief Yi said, distractions are an invitation to ignorance. When you know a multitude of things, you have invited ignorance. When you know one thing, you will gain wisdom. Yeah, I wanna read Matthew 6:24. And just to give a little context, Matthew 6 speaks about it's Matthew's telling of Yeshua's Sermon on the Mount. And so Yeshua is speaking about how our deeds must be motivated by sincerity in order to be truly righteous. And so, like, putting on an appearance of piety in order to earn the praise of others is not pleasing to Yah. And so Matthew 6:24 says, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other." And so that scripture speaks on how we choose to focus or devote our attention is ultimately what we're choosing to serve, and social media and is a great example. You'll have people who are consumed with the amount of like followers they have, but have no like defined role inside of a community based on what they have come into the world to do. So it's like those followers are their community, but it's not based on their purpose or what they may have came to the planet to do. And so like they're stuck in this paradigm called social media and they serve it, and the people followers are, yeah. I just want to say, in that instance, you can clearly see like who their master is, and that is not Yah. Because in Matthew 6:33, it says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of Yah and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." So people are out there trying to grab a hold of what they think will be a good life, if you will. They're just doing what they want to do, but they're not considering like, is this what the Creator wants me to do? Is this my purpose? So yeah. I just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you. What that actually point was just people equating their value to the number of followers that they have, right? The number of followers that you have. At least it doesn't. I think about it as you are speaking, because I see how that online community becomes your community, and you think that that's the real community, but it's not, at all. And you equate your self-worth to the number of followers that you have. And so I'm saying that because in that moment, those who do that, the will of the Most High is not important. The value of the Most High in their life is not important, because at that moment, what takes precedent over everything is the fact that they have followers, and those followers and the number of followers is how I say it speaks to my self-worth. It speaks to the level of esteem that I have. And if I could say I have a blue check next to my name, that means that's it. That's the sum total of my life. And I say to myself, wow, how many of those followers are actual people, So that's one of the things that I think interesting. And something else that connects to that in terms of like the number of followers and so on, that increases the distractions. It increases how much you're pulled in all different ways by all different modes of thoughts and ideas and thinking and lack of thinking. Let's just speak on that part, like absolute ignorance. So when Chief says like all, like all of that multitude of things that we know, all these things, but half the things that people say they know that's off of the internet is wrong. It's not good information. It's not show and prove. If you want tried information, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. This is one pathway across the whole of the internet that's actually giving you truth. Everything else, you could burn it right now. I'm so serious. But I do think of the multitude of things that we gather, and I see how it is ignorance, because it becomes just, as you said earlier, and as Chief has said to us and taught us all this time, and that's who is the original or the originator of the quote, right? That we hoard information, and we're just hoarding the information, but we don't get a moment to actually pause and understand it. And you don't get to understanding until you do the wisdom of it. And you can't do the wisdom if you don't know the thing. And the only way to know something is to actually learn it through and through. Not, okay, here's one fact, here's another fact. I have all these facts together. Whoa, I have knowledge. No, you don't. You have information, you know, and just having information is ignorance, because do you really know? Have you applied it? Have you learned about it enough to apply it and say, okay, let me teach it to somebody? So I'm just gonna
I was thinking about like how you say they have all these followers and try to get this check mark. You don't know these people. Like you just don't know who these people are. You don't know their lives. You don't know what they're connected to. So you're really letting just anything in your spirit. So like as you're scrolling and you may be looking at these different things, you may see something that you can't unsee. So what kind of effect is that going to have on you in the long term or just over a certain amount of time, because you don't know your followers or your new friend or whoever gave you this like or whatever it may be. But will you really unfriend them? Because then it goes into, well, I don't want them to see that I unfriended them and what they going to think, all of that mess. But who cares? Like, it's about you. Protect yourself, your mind, your space, your spirit. But everything is just like, oh, well, I went to the store today and I saw this, or just any little blurb they'll write on the internet and share that information. And it may be something that you really don't want to see. Well, I know I don't want to see it. So, no.
Yeah, you kind of see that with people that say like they're like quote unquote conscious. They'll say like, I know this, I know that, I feel it in my spirit. I'm speaking to the ancestor. You're like, what is a spirit? They'll try to explain it, like, well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's like, you got some dead information. You don't have no real wisdom. Like, what the? So I think that's like an example of like you're inviting ignorance. Like you have all of this information, and it's like you really don't have a drop of wisdom, though. You know. But let me read what GPI says. He says that distraction also becomes like masturbation. It takes the flow of chi in your body and disperses it all about for you. Well, it all about you for no goal or purpose. Yeah. Disperses it all about you for no goal or purpose.
That's like just that self gratification. Like it's all about me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not sharing anything with you. I don't, and it's a waste. It's a waste.
Yeah, waste.
I don't know what this is. It a scripture that talks about wasting the seed?
I think so. I think so.
That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, it's like wasting conscious thoughts.
And I guess also like wasting your purpose too, because you're not being connected to anyone or anything.
Right. No goal.
Yeah, because the chi, the flow of chi or energy. Thank you. The flow of chi and the energy, I think when he says it disperses. So it takes that flow or chi in your body and it disperses is all around you. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm going in the wrong direction, chi. So instead of that energy or that chi being used internally for your own purpose and your own goal, you're frantically keeping up with the culture of the internet and whatever is happening around you. You lose focus on yourself, right? You lose focus on your ability to fulfill your dreams or even dream about something that you want to do because you're living through the customized pleasure ride, so it is a distraction. And again, to liken it to masturbation is interesting because you could masturbate and get a feeling, but there's nothing produced from it. There's nothing produced from that. I guess that's why people do it, because they get a feeling, but then where does that energy go? It doesn't go to creating something or doing something or pleasuring your mate or pleasuring your mate, and then next thing you know, we have a baby. It doesn't reap anything. There is no reward. It gives out. It feeds some demon maybe, but it feeds something, right? But it isn't feeding you, and it's not being used to feed or support someone else. So I see um the point when you say that flow of energy, like it just dissipates, um it disperses, right? So you no longer have access to that chi. It's gone, and it wasn't used for anything in terms of your purpose or your life. you know I've never thought of it that way.
No, I was just thinking selfish gain for a feeling. Like you just had a momentary feeling of something, but you didn't benefit anything at all. Like you just said, not creating anything, nothing, nada. And then it's like, okay, now what? And then the person may even do it again. So you're consistently just being distracted, wasting energy.
Right, Shiji, I said, so true. The value of focusing on the Most High keeps doubt from you, so you will maintain focus. Where you focus, where your focus is where you reside. Someone with no focus has no home. Focus on Yah and live in Yah. Hmm. That makes me think of people who are like unfulfilled and they're like empty inside. So they don't feel at home, like even in their own presence. It just feels empty. Um, that's what comes to my mind.
That's making that made me think about people, and I don't know if you discussed it already during my distractions. People that can't sit alone with themselves, they can't be in silence. They have to have something going on because of whatever they may have inside that they can't sit with. So there's no focus there. So they can't focus on Yah because it's like, what am I gonna hear? What am I gonna see? What am I gonna do? And it may be something that they don't want to do. So that's a whole nother set of turmoil that they'll have to deal with as well.
Yeah. And you have people that just continue to talk. They don't want to be silenced. Like if there's dead silence, they're like, okay, I gotta talk so that there's, my sister was like that. I would look at her like, would you stop talking? Like, please stop talking to me. I was like, I love you, but like, please, like, let's just be silent. But I love her.
Where's the remote? Put you on mute. Mute. But I guess part of that is not being in tune with the Most High, not being in tune with the community, not being in tune with the space that you're in, and what you're speaking of could very well be a conversation that we can have around the lack of social skills because of this lack of focus, because you're not able to engage in community. You're not able to engage with anybody. Like, you don't know what that is because this is all you're doing all day, and the only type of interaction is SHM, SMH, LOL, HIG. No, that's not really a thing. I'm just spelling words now, but I'm just saying, like, the only way to communicate is by using these, what do you call those? I don't even know what the name. What do you call LOL?
Acronyms?
Yeah, so acronyms. There you go. No, but all that texting and that miniaturized versions of conversation, and it leads to so much resentment, contempt, anger, because people aren't really speaking. Like, you're not really speaking, and it's ignorant too, because even down to the things that we watch micro clips of a whole 2-hour experience, and we make a judgment, and everybody jumps into the chat, and it goes on forever. I'm like, who did anybody actually watch this? No, we didn't. We just saw, like, 15 seconds, and then we made a judgment call. I was like, oh my goodness, dumbness all over, everywhere. It's, yeah. It pulls us away from the Most High, far away.
No, I was just going to share. It made me think about, and I don't know if this was shared either. The people that broadcast but don't receive because they're just constantly talking. So even if they ask you a question and you answer the question, they still don't hear what you're saying because they're talking, or or they're busy thinking about what they're going to say next to continue their thought. That they just pause to let you speak, but then as soon as you stop speaking, they pick up where they left off. It's like, are you really here? Are you listening to what I'm saying? Because this isn't a dialogue. It's basically a monologue that I'm present for. You're muted, Okosi.
She says yes. Waste the scripture about spilling the seed on the ground was about someone defying the law by not impregnating his sister-in-law. Oh yeah, I don't remember where it's from though. I see. And then he goes on to say, "You are correct." Ooh, it's egotistic though. Distraction is rooted in ego because it is used to avoid the open plane of enlightenment. It causes you to dodge the pain of living. So that, right? I just had a moment there. Go ahead. But it reminds me of that very first point that you made for the up chief, where you kind of said that people are disappointed with the real world. The real world is a disappointment, so much so that that open plane of enlightenment is not what is, they're avoiding it because they get that pleasure ride.
Yeah, I thought about Ramadan again. Like usually when Ramadan comes around, that's when like I can say myself, I'm confronted with that. Like, oh, I've got to sit here with what I've been avoiding this whole time, and it is pain. It is pain there that you have to address. It's the whole reason why you run into addictions. So every time Ramadan or a fast comes along, I'm always confronted with that. But I love Ramadan though. I love it because I do feel like more connected. Like, okay, I'm connected with the Most High. So, yeah.
I missed the Ramadan conversation, but that similar experience, I'm getting better, but man, that pain of not eating, whoo, I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. And I've still haven't figured out what makes it worse sometimes than other times because it's just, I want to eat. Um, but, but it's like, I think I shared with you, Emma, this time we did our fast for the solstice. I didn't have music. Like I fasted from music and I didn't even intentionally fast from music. But that was one of the things that I fasted from during Ramadan. So I think it just felt right. Like, but I noticed it when I was listening to a podcast and the podcast went off and I'm just like, it's been quiet for a while. Music on. What? Wait, it ain't been no music on all day. Like, I don't even think I had music on yesterday. And then I started replaying it like, oh, wow. I didn't even realize it because I was so focused on what I was supposed to be focused on. I didn't notice like those distractions were actually missing. So that was some growth in my area. Um, but yeah, that pain, like you said, it's really real when you're not going to those distractions to keep you unfocused on the pain of living because it can't, what is it, suffering, the pain of suffering, that's just a given because we're in these bodies and we're going to suffer in some way, shape, or form. And it's like, no, I want to be happy all the time. But to even experience the pain of living can be a joy because you're living and some are not. Well, I'll say alive because even some that are alive aren't living. um, so we can aspire to live and be grateful and enjoy living.
That's hard. you're talking about it as if it's really easy. It's hard. It's hard. When you read that piece, that Bible, I actually feel a little bit emotional about it because you see people, you see it. I mean, I have to pull away from it, but when I am on the internet or social media or even just engaging or seeing people riding the bus and just watching, that becomes all they have. They don't have the excitement that they see others experiencing. They don't have that. And that that becomes the standard that they have to compare their life to. So why would I compare my life to it? Because I ain't got nothing close to that. So I will just proceed to immerse myself into that lifestyle or immerse myself into online platforms, and that becomes the life that I have. I have an avatar. You don't get to see my real 385-pound body that I shouldn't be toting. You don't, and I'm talking about somebody who's just obese and not, you don't get to see that part. You don't get to see that I actually don't live where you think I live, but I do show pictures of a house that's not really mine. You get to check out of your real life. And some people's lives is not what any one of us would, you know, even think of or imagine as a life. So they don't have a choice. And I'm not saying it's right, but the reasoning and the reality is there is no connection to the Most High, because if they were, then you would lean very hard into that if your life isn't what it should look like. And rather than leaning into the fantasy of something. And I think that that's what's happening a lot. And there are other things too, like there are other things to talk about as well too, such as the light that's emitted from the internet, not the internet, but the technology that we use, and how that takes us away from being able to sleep and being able to rest properly. And when you can't rest long enough, that interrupts your REM sleep. And when your REM sleep is interrupted, you don't get to the deepest levels of what you call it, dreaming and sleep state or sleep cycles. And you also don't get to offload. You got to offload all the information that you pulled in that day when you sleep. That is part of what happens as well too. So yeah, no, I just moved from one thing straight to the next because it's a little bit hard to talk about that, because you do see people like they don't have a life. I'm telling you, they don't have a life. They ain't doing nothing. And there's nothing else to live but through that screen. That's a reality, and they'll stay up late. These are the people who up late watching TV, stay all up at all, like crazy times at night. I'm not talking about myself. I'm just talking about people who are just up because they're not creating, they're not doing anything. That's where their life is being lived. That's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
That reminds me, that's when he went into the thing and met Socrates at 3 a.m. because he couldn't sleep. I'm sorry, Ema.
Oh no, you're good. What Occulti Maria was sharing, like, it's real because I work with a lot of elders, and it's really interesting to see the mindset, of people, like where they are. Like I was speaking to a woman, and she was speaking to me, and she was like, "Oh, I need a larger chair." She's like, "Cause I'm a large person," and then she's like, "No, let me not say that. I'm fat. I'm fat." So she was like, in that moment, she was trying to cope with like just being real and honest, with herself. And then there's some people that call in, they're still entitled. They're like, you need to do this for me. And it's like, so that's how you was your whole life. And you're still like that, even though you have this illness, you're sick, you need help, you're still not humble. And so it's just interesting to speak to different elders and see where their mindset is. Some people come like, yeah, I know I made a lot of mistakes, but, can you help me? Like, they're very humble. Like, can you just assist me? Like, it's in the, I just look at it like, wow, like it just makes me want to live right, because it's like I don't want to like end up like that. And just like some of them share their whole life story because they are lonely and they don't have anybody to talk to. So they'll be sitting there. I talked to a woman for a whole hour. She was just like, yeah, I get physical therapy and I don't want people looking at my body. And she's like, you know how embarrassing that is? I was like, I'm thinking about, I'm like, yeah, I would be embarrassed too. But it's like, but she had to humble herself because of the condition that she's in. So it is sad to see that. But, I just give thanks when I can be there and just be able to give my energy to a person and speak, words. I had an elder man, speaking to me, telling like, hey, some crazy things. He was like, but it's like, he was pretty much saying the creator caused it. And he was like, I know you can't speak. You can't say anything, but he was like, hear me when I say it's the creator. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, there's all kind of people out there. And I just think it's really, really interesting to see like where people end up based on the life choices that they make, and yeah, it definitely motivates you to like, let me live right. Let me live right, but yeah.
That reminds me of the lady in the grocery store yesterday that was in front of me. I was so tested. Oh my word. But I told Nehemiah, I said, this is why community is important. This woman is out here by herself in these streets being just as mean as she want to be, in the poor little cashier. She was so frustrated. Oh my goodness, she was frustrated because the lady had like 50-11 things that the little tiny cart. She didn't have a regular size cart. She had a tiny cart. 50-11 things packed in the top, 25 at the bottom. Her purse was buried somewhere in the middle, and she put 3 things on the belt and so and told her to ring it up. The lady was like, well, what about the rest? She said, don't worry about that. Just you do this and put this in the bag because this is separate. And I was like, oh my word. Like, oh my word. And then she put like another 7 items on the belt. And then she's moving this cart all around. Instead of walking around the cart, she's just moving the cart, bumping it into herself, bumping it into the register. Just, it was a mess. And she was really struggling. She wouldn't let anyone help her. And she was just really cantankerous. Like, no, I got this. You do this way because this is how I want it. Just, yeah, you need community. You need community and you need to be covered. And she was neither. She was alone by herself in the grocery store on struggle, being mean.
Let me see.
Well, I guess I can read it. Master Menu also makes me think of how egotistical it is to waste time. It's a precious commodity that we are not promised, and many people do waste it. Aki Jason says, Aki Zach maybe got it from she told me, either go through the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Yeah.
But pick a path.
Well, you regret that you weren't disciplined.
Master Menelik said, or were you going to read it, Shaptanaya? You got it? Oh, okay. Master Menelik said, laugh out loud. That constant talking becomes awe-inspiring in the Sequoia. Like, how are you doing that? How are you saying all those words and sentences without thinking? Yeah, it reminds me of like Motor Mouse. And like, just like, and this happened, and this is, I'm like, mm-hmm. I just, nod my head like, they may just need to get it all out. Sometimes I look at it like the person just haven't talked to anybody and they need somebody to speak to that's willing to listen. So sometimes I look at it like that as well. I'm like, okay, I'll listen. I'm good at listening. So, Kota Yafe say micro chatting. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, GPI says blaming the phone/screen is a part of our distraction of complaints. The phone is innocent. It just is what it is. Even thoughts are innocent. We internalize our distractions instead of looking inward. Yeah. Yeah, we're making the choice to be distracted by the phone and then turn around and say, like, it's your fault. It's your fault, phone. Even thoughts are innocent.
Yeah, that's the part I kept reading. Like, even thoughts are innocent.
So is that choice thought. We're making the choice to entertain the thought. We're making the choice to entertain the distraction. It's me. It's me. It's us. Like, yes. So stolen focus is giving us all the causes, but ultimately we're doing that. Like we're reducing our ability to consume books and read. Even our reading comprehension has diminished drastically because of that lack of focus, right? That lack of focus. And I would say lack of desire. Lack of desire to even, I say experience something through reading, and I do know that we read a lot using Kindle and, digital books and things of that nature. But, I'll just pause as an educator and say this, like, it becomes very difficult that when you say the distractions, it's still us. I watch the I have to think about how I talk about this now because yeah, but at a school that I experienced, in my past, I noticed that the children read, but their reading was mainly done online. They used the computer a lot. A matter of fact, out of the hours of schooling that they received, they were exposed to computer screens for about 80% of the time. So all activities were done that way, all reading was done digitally. These children still have persistent issues with reading comprehension. It's actually diminished, I would say. And that's because when you walk in, that's part of the distractions. They're there, they'll have a reading page up on the tab with the reading story, but 2 tabs over is Minecraft. 2 tabs over is something else, or 2 tabs over is a YouTube thing, So those that shows that they willpower. They don't have the ability to filter or to say, no, I'm going to not choose the distraction, but I'm going to choose to stay focused on that reading, or to stay focused on whatever is going to build me, But apart from that, evidence has shown that reading digital books or reading using technology versus reading a hard copy of a book is actually, you don't retain the information the same. The brain doesn't process the information, the knowledge in the same way. And I think Chief has spoken about this before, like all of the different things that happen when you eat with your hands is the same way different things happen when you read an actual physical book. You turn the pages, feel the texture, you pause, you write notes, it's just it, and the body is receiving that as information too. That's crazy, right? But then there's in that process too, you're breaking down words and seeing things in very different ways, and you're able to flip back and forth, and it's just a different experience. And I think that's an important part of even our build in chapter, I think it's chapter 3 or 4. Harry talks about how that lack of focus actually has been diminishing the society's reading capacity.
Yes, chapter 4. But yeah, and even when you were explaining it, I was thinking about how when you take a book and usually you can see a child reading like this, like they're pointing with their finger going across the page. You can't do that on the screen because as soon as you touch it, it's going to swipe and go to a different page or move in some kind of way. But I know I really don't retain it the same when it's on the screen versus when I'm holding an actual book. But I remember too, he said he was speaking about like your ability to use your imagination and be empathetic towards other people when you're actually reading a book versus reading off of a screen. And it's like, well, just reading, period, but more so reading from a book. And most people, they're not they don't have the ability to connect with others or be empathetic or sympathetic to another human at all. And that came from like the lack of reading.
That's really interesting. I just want to make a correction. Even thoughts are innocent. We externalize our distractions instead of looking inward. I said that word wrong. Externalize. So yeah, I think that's definitely true when it comes to reading. I remember like loving to read just for the simple fact you get to use your imagination. So you get to imagine what the characters look like, and and I don't know, just something about filling the pages too. It's like, but let's see here.
And smelling it.
Mm,
I will
yes.
always smell it. I don't know why, but they just have a smell. And it's like, no, I need to touch it and feel it and smell it.
All right. Aki Jason said, "You're right, Chief. It is just a tool, like a hammer. It's the person behind the tool and how it's used." Right. Right. You don't have to let the phone control your life. You are in control. um, you were a conversationalist hostage, Shakunaya.
I really was. It really was. I don't know if it's like the people, the neighbors, and what they have going on. The noise has actually gone down some outside, so I'm thinking maybe their party is over, and that's why my connection is cool now. So I'm just rolling with it. I'm glad about it.
They really chilling on the swag. Oh, okay. We have the Dove Fly Kim. Greetings, sister. Greetings. Peace. All right, we have Chief. Yeah, it's not so much the entertainment, it's the unwillingness to source the distraction, to unravel that fabric of deflection. Do we search for the fuel of our restlessness? This requires courage. Yeah. Do we search for the fuel of our restlessness? I wonder, what some of you all think. Um, you know, or is that question just for us? I don't know, but I'm curious to see what others say too.
Do we search for the fuel of our restlessness? So, everyone in the chat, do you search for the fuel of your restlessness? Why are you so restless? You know, I think I am restless because I like to be on the move. I like to be on the move. Not that I don't want to be settled and but I like to be moving. No, I don't have a hot foot anymore because that's what it used to be called, because you just want to be outside in the streets. And that's wrong. That's not how a young woman should be. I'm telling you. So if that's what you did and that's what you're doing the wrong thing. You need to come under the direction of a man so you can learn how to be in the house, understand what beauty that is, because it is a very different experience, very different experience from what it was like when I was a youth. But that's part of my restlessness. It's the need to explore and to explore different environments, different places, engage with different people, understand what people think and how people think, and the differences in their perspective based on just their culture alone. Sometimes just the language alone. People say language barrier. I say no, language expansion, cultural expansion, because when somebody's language, you kind of understand their thought process, their thinking, what's going on, what things they prioritize. And so there's a restlessness, I would say, because there's that need, and maybe it's a desire, which leads to what, suffering. But yes, part of that restlessness is that needing to have the different experiences, because it informs me. It's not just to have the experience, it's an informing of how others live, how they function, what they are like. And that's only one. I think there are other things that make me restless too. It's that I think part of it is too that looking at the world and having a bit of disappointment in there sometimes, just seeing how we react. I'm not going to say people, how we react to experiences, how we sometimes disconnect, how we manipulate experiences for our gain, how we, hey, listen, it's a whole book here, okay? So I'm done. It's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, those are two things that I think could speak to the restlessness that, yeah, the reason or the fuel of my restlessness. I'd say that. And please, anybody else who wants to jump in the chat and share or come on, the the link is pinned, so feel free to jump on.
I was when you were explaining like being out uncovered and just moving about, I thought about our retreats, of course. Like, is that why we always just be outside and don't nobody ever want to go to bed? Because we just so glad to be outside. And people end up falling asleep around the campfire because they just don't want to go inside. Oh my goodness. Wow. I never thought, just crossed my mind like, I wonder. But I mean, aside from that, like, we know I go to bed early and I try and sit out by the campfire, and it's a struggle. I think sometimes I'm asleep with my eyes open because I don't want to miss anything that comes out of Chief mouth. I don't want to miss any part of the build that the other brothers, and some of the awake sisters are having. Like, you don't want to miss out on nothing because we're together and we're doing what we're doing now, but it's in person and it's totally different. It's such an experience. Wow. But just being out under that dark sky, you can look up and see stuff and talk about that. Wow. But yeah, I think when I'm not focused and I don't get things done that I know I should have done, it can cause me to be restless. But usually, yeah, I go to bed so I can be fully rested and able to do what I need to do. But seeing things that I don't normally look at, they cause that as well.
Yeah, I would say for me, my restlessness comes from fear of change because I know I'm going to become aware of something in that quiet space. Like I'll become aware of like, oh, you're hurting in this area. So I will like solutions come. Oh, I know I need to do this to change that issue. And so it means that, and if I don't, it's like I'm going to be, it's going to constantly be on my mind. Like you got to change that. You got to change that. Like, now. So you can't just move forth with that knowing and not make a change. So I think sometimes like my fear of change, like makes me not want to sit and find out, get those solutions, which is like, that's self-sabotage. It's not good, but yeah, just being honest.
And I'll add that too. Like part of that distraction, like the sourcing of the distraction, in addition, apart from the other things, it's sometimes it is unwillingness or lazy or uncertainty, right? Uncertainty, laziness, because you just want to stand up in the sun or sit in the sun rather than do work, and which is a sin, right? That's a sin. So that's one of the things, because it's like, okay, I don't want to do this right now, so you allow a distraction, because that's what's being said here. Like, you are allowing the distraction. The phone is just a thing. It's just a thing. I wield what's happening in my world, and I choose to be distracted in this moment because, yeah, I want to experience things and gather knowledge or gather information about people, culture, everything. So I'll allow that distraction to come in that way. But it also goes back to, yes, laziness, yes, checking out from something. At times it's also realizing like, okay, I want to do this I'm instructed to do this, this, and this, so I want to do this thing, but that's not what you should be doing in the first place. Is like, then you don't want to do what you're supposed to do, which is disobedience. So I'm labeling, and I'm talking about myself, me, but then there's also uncertainty. And I at times would allow uncertainty. I am saying I would allow because it's not just the technology. I am granting it permission, Um, so I do think that that's something that to think about. What are these things that we are allowing into our journey and into our lives? I see a few people on. Okay, I see Chief in the stream. I'll add you to the stream. Peace.
Oh, if it's a few piece, everyone. If it's a few people, I don't have to speak. I was just thinking I was getting the ball rolling. You're saying few people in the chat or few people in the background to speak?
Oh, I thought there were a few. I actually am looking at Naya's thing.
Oh, you were hyping it up. Okay, I got you. You were trying to create a rush. Yeah, supply and demand. Like, hurry up and get your spot now. Spots are going fast. I see what you're doing. That was good marketing. Yeah, that was smart. You thinking on your toes. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, peace. Peace, Ema Sequoia.
Peace.
Yeah, I was just gonna, get the ball rolling. But aside from getting the ball rolling, I think a lot of times too, where challenges people come in when it comes to like staying on code in terms of like what you're saying, like I should be doing this, but I'm distracted by doing that, is because like we're like corralled into this idea of concentration. Like I remember there used to be this game, it might still be that game, concentration, where you have to pick up the bones and stuff out the man's body and not hit the sides, right? Or you get the buzzer. And different concentration, Okoti Maria, right? Because she was waving her hands in the air and stuff, right? Yeah. So, and I think what happens is that we, like in school, you're told like, yo, pay attention. But then you're told to concentrate. And concentration is a stagnation of energy. It's a stagnation of thought. Whereas attention is a movement of thought. It's a movement of energy. And I think sometimes what happens is that when we think about removing ourselves from distraction, we think about, I got to concentrate. And we know somewhere within us that like, yo, that means stagnation. Like concentration is a swamp, and attention is a river that flows. So it's like, man, I don't want to generate that swamp. I don't want that. We kind of innately know, like, if I concentrate, everything stops. And we'll remove ourselves from that. And then there's another element, I think, because I would imagine for each person it's a very different kind of experience. But there's like this there's this gossiping that happens, right, inside of the brain, inside of the brain. And like it's a distraction. Like you can mentally wander, or you could be distracted. And sometimes we don't know the difference, right? You put me in a beautiful place, like I want to wander around, I want to look, I want to see what it's about. Like, man, I want to touch this, smell that, and that's different than like being in a beautiful place and being distracted. No, I'm here. Like, this is no distraction. I'm here and I'm supposed to be here. So I think that also creates that stagnation, because we don't know how to wander and do that internal wandering. And when we start to do internal wandering, we can focus. Like, for instance, if we were all to, or many of us were to try to put our focus to an illicit thought, like you know, an idea of just having intimate relationship with someone, and it's just amazing. And if we walk through the whole thing, I bet we could keep our mind to that, and it would be no distraction. In fact, if there was a distraction, we'd be upset. You know, that was a good dream I was having. I was, you know, Blair Underwood or whatever, you know. So then we get upset because we're taken out of that. So the way we sometimes react to distraction versus responding is what makes a distraction a bigger thing internally. But if I say right now, let us all focus on the idea of virtue, how long could you keep that? About a good maybe 30 seconds before you lose it. But you could focus on that wet dream all night. You see? So I think a lot of times we know what the distraction is from the mental wandering, but we call it all distraction. You know, and that creates a different sort of issue as well. I mean, I there's more that was going through my mind, but I don't want to take up the space.
Peace and culture, Yafe.
Peace and culture, Yafe.
Peace. How are you all? Peace, Shabbat Shalom.
Pretty bad. Doing pretty bad.
Oh no. Oh no.
And pretty freaking horrible.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. We don't want you to be doing bad. Well, I will that your evening.
That's it?
No, I will that your evening and your Shabbat gets lovelier.
You will it.
I do.
Oh, well, I'm glad I told you how I was doing, because that makes it all better. Yeah.
What happened? How could you know, what happened?
Well, what are you going to do if I tell you what it is?
Well, it depends on what it is, you know?
What if it's something that I know you can't handle because I handle stuff for you that's way less than what I go through? Then what?
Well, maybe in this moment, the Most High will give me words that would help to ease the situation in a way that's, you know.
What if I don't have that box, so I'm not swayed and eased by words?
Which box you talking about?
Oh.
Hello.
Ema and Safta's box.
Oh,
Mama and Granny box. Honeycomb hideout.
Boys
The
have
Rose of Sharon.
vaginas.
Come on, Okoti. Mute out. Just mute out.
I have more words I could use.
Okay.
The exploded bologna sandwich. Or in some people's cases, roast beef sandwich.
Oh,
She got it.
I don't. You get it, but I don't.
The chocolate yogurt cup.
What is a chocolate yogurt cup? Like, do you mean chiboni?
You see how holy she is? See what I told you? Everyone's focused right now, though. You see this? No distraction. You see how this works? This was a lesson to all you. I hope you learned something.
I know what you're I was just merely saying I'm going to offer words that will help in this moment. Then you said something about a box, and I'm like, what box are you talking about?
Right. Okay. So go on, Koti Yafe. Share what you was gonna share. She's over there playing. She want certain things said. OPP.
Yeah, you're over there playing. Acting innocent, like you don't know.
Right. I don't know. I don't do those things. I never.
Give thanks for the conversation, and I had to jump in because I am a person who's distracted easily a lot, and I just wanted to like offer clarity to what I had commented in the chat before about the micro chatting. It was you had asked the question about like LOL and like the phrases that we use, and I could be wrong. I was thinking that it was called micro chatting. I'm not sure, but I agree. Like it does move us into this space where we don't speak in full sentences, really, to the point where it's like, you know, how are we speaking, or how are people speaking? It's like, and in a way, you can almost say like moving back to like grunts and sounds, because there's not these full fledged, thought out, ways to say things, and not necessarily meaning like using a lot of words, because we know like that can also be a distraction as well, like using all these words to say something very simple. The other part of that is even like feeding into why we don't necessarily have the same level of reading comprehension that we did, because of this shortened way that we communicate with one another. Yeah, like, and that's all I have for now. Like, I just wanted to like add to that point. And yeah, and no, and I'll go back to the point about like what you mentioned about the custom, the tailor, the custom made. And it's like what I was trying to say was like that algorithm, that maybe sentient thing that we all interface with every day. It's been trained to know what I like because I'm training it to know what I like. And so it's like, well, who's the dog or the person with the stick? Is it me? Am I the dog chasing the stick? Or is it that? Or is it the thing that I'm actually telling it? I'm giving it all my business to tell it what I like. But I think what ends up happening is that we end up being the ones chasing the stick or chasing the carrot, because it figures out how to keep us in a loop. And so we're like not even like chasing it, we're like chasing our tails, right? Or like running around on the hamster wheel, trying to keep up with all the flashy things that it's putting in our faces. And a lot of it is not even real. Like you mentioned about like the pictures and things that people show online, and it's not really truth or indicative of what may really be going on or what the reality of their life is. It's just this facade that I want to present. And even doing that's a distraction for me from real life. I'm distracted, so I'm going to spread this to everyone else. So
do y'all gossip?
No.
No, sir.
No.
Does anyone here have? Yeah, y'all didn't answer. She's like, got out of it. That was close.
At least she didn't snitch. So she's learning.
You lying. You're lying. We just talking about another thing. Yeah. But do any of you have issues with distraction as it relates to like, using social media and finding yourself on it a bit too long?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't.
I'm probably not on it enough. No, I don't have distractions.
Mm-hmm. Maria does. What you gonna say? Because you always sending me videos. So let's see what lie you gonna tell tonight. It's educational. It's for the children.
Just say yes.
Yeah, no, I have to be on there, and I do.
Wow. Told you.
What's that?
You have to be on there.
Yeah, I have to. Okay,
Why?
Because I am either sending something or that, and those are the only times. I'm never on there for entertainment, so it's not like okay.
Really?
No.
So where do you get those videos that you send me all the time?
Because they just come across the screen. I'm like,
they just come. Hey, look at me. Hey, there be music playing.
No, never that. If it's not a video about like I just posted a video today, and the reason I found it was literally because it was a musical video with a child on there, and I was like, this is supposed for understanding, so that's why. So that's why I was on there.
Oh my goodness! Listen,
she's so well spoken.
Gerald and Birdie the Stallion was hilarious. I was like a good minute with that one.
Oh, that's Miss Alberta. Gerald. Yeah, but I'm just curious because like I hear what you're saying, but if you have any level of like Yafe is saying, like again, I think there's like a level of demonizing some of these experiences, and like it's IG or Facebook or TikTok is there, and it's gonna do whatever it does. It's not inherently evil, But I think there's a continual inner distractedness that many of us have. And that inner distractiveness is like, when some of us were raised in a very self-centered manner, always having to be entertained, always having to have a toy in our hand or something to look at, or even a screen. Nowadays, it's children got screens in their hands all the time. You take a trip in a car, you got your screen? You got your screen? All right, cool, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's got a screen. And I think that what happens, well, I pretty much know, but I'm gonna pretend to say I think that what happens is that creates this sort of monster that always has to be fed entertainment all the time. So even in your quiet moment, what happens is that your inner mind or your inner brain begins to create these fragments and these opinions internally. And it has these sort of internal conversations. So if you don't have any immediate distractions available to you outside of you, that mind will manufacture new ones inside of you. So now you begin to gossip internally, and there's like this continuous distraction with no interruption flow because it's internal and external. So we may see something on social media, be like, oh man, then they have you clicking, it. That is just a projection of what's already happening inside of your mind. And you'll find sometimes there'll be like a desperation. Like find somebody who can't get on IG or let your account get blocked. Look how they go crazy. They immediately create a fake account and add all the same people. Like, yeah, add me. That's my new account. They blocked my old account, right? So that's like the desperation that the mind has to create these self-created streams of distractedness. And I think it expresses itself outside of us as well. But I think it's internal. That's why I said we externalize all of this distraction as if it's not really representative of the distraction that's inside of our heads. We don't want to take the blame for that, because if we recognize it's happening inside of our heads, then with the onus is on us to explore it. Right? Because we use certain words. Here, I'm going to try this one. Does anyone here know what an algorithm is?
I don't know how to explain it, so I'm gonna say no.
No, not by definition.
Right, but you all use the term. And you interact with it every day, and you use the terminology, but you haven't even explored what it is. See what I'm saying? Like, that's an example of it. You have internal distractions every day, man. Every day I get up, I start thinking about my regrets, or I think about my ex-lover, or I think about this or that. I have all these different thoughts every day that take me away from what it is that I'm doing, and they're all just smoke screens on the way in my spiritual path. But we don't even say, well, why am I thinking about that? Do I start to unmask some of these spirits that are inside of me? The same way you have an algorithm, it's affecting everything you see, but you don't even take the time to learn that an algorithm is a set of instructions that are utilized to solve a problem. So there's a difference between an algorithm, a function, a formula, or even an instruction inside of the programming world. But you don't even know that, but you use the term. So I think that's just like indicative of what sort of happens. And a lot of that is fueled by our desire to maintain our relationship with everything that we already have. We start exploring it, then we'll have opportunities to strike at our problems, and we don't want those opportunities. So we, instead of like saying, okay, you know what, I'm not distracted, I'm wandering, let's go. Because I'm going to wander to the source, which would be a response. It would be a thought, a healthy thought to your distraction, a healthy response. We say, we have a reaction. Oh man, they always got these algorithms in my face. Oh man, every time I turn on IG is somebody booty hopping. Oh man, you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of saying like, no, let's wander for a second. Let's look at these videos of these different women, succulent bodies. No, I'm playing, but I'm just saying.
Not on mine.
But yeah, no, I'm just playing. But but there is a wandering that needs to happen, and when you do, the more you wander, the less you'll you'll kind of the more you wander, the more you take away what fuels your distraction. It starts to run empty.
Peace, everyone.
Peace, master.
I've done that before. When it comes to the wandering, I didn't call it wandering. I was like, all right, what's going, like, you ever had like a pet that just kept messing with you, and like you have a dog or something that's just sitting in front of you? It's like, not now, I'm busy. And it's like, all right, what are you trying to show me? And they take me somewhere and they just want to show me their favorite toy. You play with them for a second, then they happy. It's like, all right, you actually paid attention to me, and that's all I wanted. If it's a dog, if it's a cat, is usually they want tribute. Pay me, give me some food. Every time you come home, you feed me, but this time you didn't feed me, so now I'm gonna make this noise until you feed me. It feels like that sometimes when I go wandering. Sometimes I find new ideas, like things I may want to paint or things like that, which can be dangerous too, because it may take me away from finishing what I already started. But I'll just log it away. And sometimes it's just like, I just find a question. It's like, why was this so important to me? Why did I really have trouble like focusing on what I was doing? Why was this so distracting that I had to stop doing what I was doing to go over here? And sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes it's something that was really bothering me, and I get a chance to really address it directly. So I understand, at least from a certain angle, what you were saying when it comes to not calling it everything a distraction. Sometimes there are certain things that are pulling for our attention, and giving it that attention can have a different effect than we think it might if we just call everything a distraction.
Yeah, I was saying, listening to the difference, that crossed my mind as well, because I know I'll scroll a little bit and I'll look at crochet things, and I'll only go like a certain number of times. Like, I do my finger on the screen like this, and I'm like, all right, that's enough, that's it. Whatever I didn't see, I won't see. But then sometimes it's like, no, wait a minute, what is that you making? And then I like follow that, and it'll like trigger new creative thoughts or make me think of something else that I want to make, or even take a photo of it and if I want to try it myself. Yeah, that's what came to mind, differentiating between wandering and being distracted. But even still, I try and limit how long I'm on there, because I'm just like, I don't want it to be extreme and just get lost in looking at new stuff and I'm not doing anything. So.
Yeah, I have had those moments where I get caught looking, at different like jewelry and things that I know that I can do. And I have to, and I will get lost. And I always say that there's a specific app, we won't name it. It shall not be named, but it's the devil. And I have to like literally like stop. Like my brain will have to say like stop. Because I wouldn't even know if I can call it like wandering. Maybe it starts off as wandering, but then it just becomes distraction, because it's like you said, okay, well, when are you gonna go and make your own? It's nice to like kind of be in this realm, but you have to go make your own. And it's like, go back to reality and see what's happening over there. Build up your own.
Where's reality?
Not in the screen, not in the phone. Okay. Well, maybe that's not a good answer. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Like
I said, where
it's
is?
like, where's Waldo? It's like, well, he's not on that page.
I know where he ain't. Slick talk. You said you go back to reality.
I did. Well, I mean, like back to where I have to, you know, be with my own thoughts and create from my own hands and not from, you're not like stuck looking at what other people are doing.
Where do you go to be with your own thoughts?
I mean, physically, I'm in the house, or sometimes I do run or walk outside, and that helps me to kind of just be there. I mean, I don't know if I can say I'm completely there because obviously, if I'm walking out in the street, part of my awareness is trying to be aware of my surroundings, but I do get a chance to just kind of contemplate things and run them over my head. Or maybe it is having like those gossipy moments in my head as I'm walking. So maybe, and then that wouldn't necessarily be reality either.
So your thoughts are outside.
What do you mean, like outside and like outside? I mean,
You said you go outside and
I mean,
run to.
physically outside sometimes, or sometimes I'm
Right.
just in the
So
house.
where is this place that you go to be with your thoughts? Where do your thoughts live?
They live, I mean, they're inside of me. They're my mind.
So you go into your mind to go deal with your thoughts because that's where your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're anywhere else. I could be wrong, unless I'm sure you're about to tell me.
I ain't gonna tell you because you messed up all the first stuff I told you. You just call the app evil. I just said the apps are not evil; they're innocent. So you ain't caught up to that yet. You got to rewind the tape.
Okay,
Go to
sorry.
that part. Yeah, you feel me? I think a lot of times people are super distracted because they haven't gone through the dark night of the soul. You know, when you're truly an aspirant on a path, you get to a point where you are so frustrated with things are just not happening, things are not working. And that last moment before frustration is when you kind of go into the desert of your own mind. That's that frustration place because the desert of the mind is where you leave everything behind. You know, you leave everything that's familiar. And sometimes we do that out of frustration. And it's usually right in that moment that we oscillate. We have a moment to oscillate between distraction or our entertainment or our boredom. And the third option is enlightenment. You know, and we it's how we react and respond to that frustration. So if you're a person who's never truly gone through that darkness, that darkest hour, you know, and taking your mind out to the desert, you know, because in essence the desert is your mind. You know, because that when you have all these distractions, it's like I never can get my thoughts clear, whatever. It's a sign that your mind is you're getting ready to wake up. So there's a boundlessness that's getting ready to enter into your experience, and that boundlessness starts to kind of energize all of the particles of thought within you, so they all start to like jumping beans, you know, and there's all of these different responses that come up, and then it's like, man, I can't get this done, this app, my neighbor's next door making all this noise. Oh, I got to go on this app to send messages, even though it's not really known for that. Or, oh, now the information is coming, I keep yawning. You know, it's like all kind of things that happen, you know, even in the moment right now, real time. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's like your sign, like, yo, I'm about to wake up. I'm about to wake up. And that's usually, sad to say, is when we turn back around by way of a path of a distraction.
When we're at that point of waking up, we choose distraction.
Of total frustration, because you don't know you waking up. You're just frustrated. This won't work. This is not working. It's not working. What the heck? You ever do something, be so freaking frustrated that you get up and go get a drink of water or something and then come back and do it exactly right?
Yes. It's like, well, why was it different? I didn't do anything different.
Nothing was different, but you just chose a response instead of a reaction. You could have took that thing you was working on and threw it across the room.
Oh my goodness.
you know, and you said, no, let me take a moment. My father taught me that when I was young. He used to always teach me that because we used to work on cars together all the time. And he used to say, like, yo, sometimes you're working on something, you're trying to figure it out, and it's just you did everything you're supposed to do, and it's like maybe the car still ain't turning over, or it's still overheating, or it's still leaking out fluid somewhere, and you're like, what the heck? I did it. What the heck could it be? That's when you start breaking everything. That's when you start going in, freaking, you know. Next thing you know, you done crack something that's plastic, or you turned something too far and the bolt is stripped out, and now you really pissed. Now you kick the car, and you know your little brother was under there, and the jack falls over, he's screaming. You know, like it's just everything. That cat come running out the back.
Oh,
You know, everything just goes haywire because you were right at that moment of a breakthrough, and you chose this emotional reaction, this push and pull, because it's pulling at your emotions. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I know it's right. It's right at the tip. I can see it. And so you chose to react instead of pulling back for a moment and saying, all right, we don't get a drink of water. Like his thing he used to do, it's funny. He would take out his polishing rag and he'd start polishing the chrome on his motorcycle, or he'd start wiping the car down. He'd get some Armor All, start wiping the dash down, cleaning the windows. Now, meanwhile, I might be there helping him. I got grease all on my hands. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is he doing? He'll start whistling, turn some music on, and just start polishing the bumpers and shining them up. Then he'll come back. He would always make that noise. I got it. You know, and then be like, yep, boom, 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 boom. That's what it was. You see, so that moment of frustration, sometimes we don't realize it can be deeply transformative if we allow it to reach down into our bones and then change us. That's when the journey of awakening often is getting ready to begin. You know, it's always better to stay cool.
I usually just when I'm talking to myself, like, yo, just calm down. Just take a step back. Think about it. Think about it, brother. Think about
it. You built pyramids. You could put your bicycle chain back on.
Right. I usually do it like, yo, you solve harder problems than this. This ain't nothing. Just calm down. You shouldn't be getting frustrated. This small this. Don't worry about this. Just step away from the computer.
See, that what you're doing is you're clearing the dam. Like the water's tried to stop flowing because the dam gets clogged up with all those distracted, frustrated thoughts. Those are like all the stuff blocking the river flowing. And then you're like, wait a minute, you get these damn sticks out the river. Move these bricks and these rocks. This don't even belong here, man. I'm a thinker. I can keep thinking. You ain't gonna shut my thinking down. And then on the other side, you'll be like, eureka. There it is.
Yeah, because I used to go in the opposite direction when I was younger and get frustrated. Like, why are you so dumb? Like, why you can't figure this out? You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, you can figure this out.
I literally used to copy my father. Literally. I'd be working on my bike. Let's say because I used to sell bikes. I used to fix bikes up and sell them. Let's say I got a rim.
Something.
I stayed with business. I used to sell skateboards. I used to repair skateboards. Like if you wanted to swap your trucks on your skateboard, or let's say you had a bearing issue in your skateboards, you know, you might have you wanted some new wheels or whatever. I was crazy with the skateboards. I would even recoat them, you know what I mean, put new grip tape on them for you. Then I was crazy with the bikes. Like, yeah, man, I was making bread when I was a kid. But same thing, man. I get something ain't working. These trucks are still crooked, they're wobbling, or I can't get the screw in the board properly. I just copy Pops. Now I get up, clean a bike, you know, shine my bike up, put some new bass playing cards in the rims, you know, get a fresh sound going. You know,
open a new pack of cards.
New pack of cards, yeah. You know, put some new stiff cards in the rims, you know what I'm saying? Like, and just wait for a minute. You know what I'm saying? I might go even make me some Kool-Aid or something. You know what I'm saying? Get some brain food.
I thought you were talking about something with a motor this whole time.
I was, but I'm saying that it starts what I'm throwing in is a plug for modeling proper response. So I'm telling a private story about my father because I don't really talk about my parents that much. So whoever's listening who might have children, the next time they going off like a damn gorilla, because he used to do a lot of that too. So don't think I'm bigging him up right now, but he also had a temper. This man tore down a whole playground set once with his bare hands. Big old mallish gorilla, and was grunting like an animal the whole time because one of the it was something broke on it and had like a sharp piece of metal coming off of it. So he kept telling the children, stop playing on that slide, y'all gonna get hurt. So we go by there and they playing on the thing. He hops out fuming. What did I tell you? And yo, I got something for you. I got something, and rips the thing down with his. I'm looking at him like, Joe, this dude is a rageaholic. Like, yo, and where's all this strength coming from? Like, this is what you need, like a machine to tear these iron. He's and just pulling it down and bends the whole thing down to the ground. You know what I mean? And then get to this car, takes his beef patty out the center console and keeps eating and drives off.
Because that's less of a safety hazard.
Right, exactly. Getting back in the car, sweating. I'm leaning all on the window now because I'm like, man, I'm scared. Like, I don't want you anywhere near me. Please, let's hurry up and get home. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, he was freaking. So there was moments too. So if anybody's got a father like that, I was never like that. I ain't doing all that, man. Y'all go ahead. I used to tell my little cousins, "Oh, you riding your bike? You ain't got no brakes? Oh, keep going up and down. Jump on the ramp. Do it again. I didn't see you last time. Do it again."
Mm-hmm.
I used to love to tell them to hurt themselves. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that's just something to model because a lot of children are distracted, and sometimes we don't understand as parents like how to respond. You know, sometimes we get really frustrated and don't realize that a lot of times their distractions are humiliating to them. You know, like their inability to focus on things. And, you know, like every good teacher, you're supposed to send your student forward, not pull them back into their own embarrassment or anything like that, you know, and recognize like, yeah, when you see your child's all over the place and distracted and they're like habitually distracted, they are challenged with confronting their own wisdom. That's a child that's got some wisdom. And there's all these forces around them trying to keep them from assessing the immediacy of their own genuineness and the immediacy of their own teachings that they have alive inside of them. You know what I mean? So you gotta, when you model good things, like my father, there was times he would model good things. Like I said, he working on a car, he just pulled back. Now, obviously, he broke stuff in there because how would he know that? He didn't go to school for auto mechanics. He knew. He'd be like, yeah, man, you know, when you get like that, you gotta pull back, man. Just pull back, take a break, man. Sit down on the chair, you know, and then, yeah, because you probably tore up probably ripped the engine out with his bare hands at some point. Freaking gorilla.
Oh, I remember last year January.
Right.
I did put that in wrong.
I can see the neighbors coming over, knocking on the door, like, engine came flying over the fence. Would you mind? The insurance said they didn't cover flying engines. Could you mind coming and getting your car engine? You know what I mean? He was like that. So obviously he learned that and realized, okay, that's not going to work. So I have to do something that's a little bit more inspiring, but at the same time manageable. You know, because sometimes you pull back too long, you get bored, and you lose focus on what you were beginning to do. You know, but when you find ways to kind of balance it, you could come back to such great precise like navigating on your path of awakening. You'll be like right there, like right in the middle. You know, it's that push and pull, that ebb and flow is so valuable.
Yeah, that makes me think of the idea of when you're going after something, not to like be attached to the result, but when you're going for something, you you know what it is that you're going after, but you're not so attached to how you think it should turn out that when it's not looking the way you had it in your mind, you don't get frustrated and just drop the whole thing, but you're willing to go for the ride and watch it play out. And it's something you couldn't foresee, but it's also something that's way better than you may have even imagined.
Yep. Yo, that is so accurate, man, because it's a lot of times we come into our experiences and we are trying to bend our experiences to our will, and it's just like you said. And when that doesn't happen, like, yeah, of course, sometimes like we'll start to question or like when we can't cover up what we're doing anymore. You know what I mean? But when you come out of that place, when you're no longer doing that, you just you relax. You enter into a very relaxed state, and there's that fear at first, like, yo, if I get rid of this smoke screen. Like, I knew this woman years ago, man. She was lifetime loser, and I used to speak to her all the time about getting herself together, and she would always say, like, yo, well, I got my children. I got to look after my babies. And she was doing such a terrible job with them. I mean, they were raising themselves, So I told him one day, I was like, you use those children as distractions to the point that you limit them from what they need to go be as they're growing and getting older, because they're your smoke screen. And the loss of that smoke screen is terrifying to you. You see, you won't allow the smoke to clear to see, like, maybe there's a completely new way that you can move in at this point. But when you accept that, like, eventually she did, she was like, yeah, you're right. I know I got to get it together. And, like, yeah, you ain't fooling me. Like, everyone looking at you like, oh, you're this great mother. You're always with them. You're always right. You're boycotting your own journey. And sometimes, like, when we get to that point when we allow those distractions to crumble, what the first thing that hits in is fear, and then a whole lot of pain. Because it's like, imagine how you feel when your dreams are crushed. See, and a dream is nothing but an illusion. So sometimes we generate our own dreams to cover up what we're supposed to do. So your dreams and your illusion begin to, like, turn to steam or smoke. They just go up in smoke. And then no matter where we go, we get, like, kind of pushed back into ourselves. Where you going? Go back to yourself. Go back to yourself. Like, we can't escape it. No matter what's going on, we can't escape it. And we've become so accustomed to generating these artificial experiences and scenarios so that we couldn't be locked and anchored in on the path. That we're used to this life where we never commit ourselves to anything, because there's always some way we can get out of it. There's always some way to slip out of it. But then we become stuck. Nope, there's no moving now. The dream is gone. The illusion is gone. You got to face yourself. You get thrown back into yourself. And at that moment, we become like, we come face to face with all that disappointment and all that pain that we've been using as distraction to keep us from all that time. And it's now even the gossip silences. The gossip keeps us company. It's our friends inside of us. I remember Akoti Maria saying before, like, food was my friend. Like, and then when you lose that relationship, you feel the utter aloneness of it all. There's nothing that you can hang on to. Everything is bleak. That's going into that desert, because now everything that you relied on, it's a sham. It's just a mental construct. That's the wall you got to hit before you come into awakening and all the distractions disappear for the moment. And I say the moment because they have the potential to creep back up.
That reminds me of that movie too. It was that scene where talking about Peaceful Warrior, that scene where they were replacing the guy who probably shouldn't have been getting replaced. He probably just sprained his wrist. No, we're not gonna bring that up. But
yeah, he didn't fit the aesthetic of the rest of the team. He was throwing off the look.
Yeah, it wasn't uniform, so they had to clean that up. It's like waiting for this.
the darky.
Yeah, I just chipped in there. Nope, go to the doctor. You need this. But when they were trying to replace him, and Dan was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get that spot." He only really wanted it because some other people wanted it, and he wanted to prove that he could take it from him. But when he was supposed to meet Socrates, he's like, "Hey, listen, I know I agreed to meet you out here, for my training and everything, but I think we could, reschedule this whole thing because I got something else I got going on right now." Then he gets thrown off a bridge, and all of a sudden, it wasn't that important to begin with.
Right. Mm-hmm. I don't know why y'all leaning back in your chairs, man. This is supposed to be y'all segment.
I don't know. I thought it was a guest. I thought it was
we just guessed it. We guessing it up.
It becomes very. I wonder if there's a fear of loneliness when we are not facing that wall, right? Because again, like you pulled on the idea of the food is my friend, but you also say the gossip becomes your friend. And so then it keeps you company. And that kind of that company, I guess, or that distraction in a sense, as you said it before, like it keeps you from going back into yourself. So it made me think about like fulfilling purpose. It made me think about ignoring the fact that you are given a purpose, and how sad that is. I almost think about the idea of pride, in that whatever it is that you have, or the dream or the illusion that you create, like that's sufficient. That's all there is. And you could learn absolutely nothing from actually the real version of self, which, yeah. So I see why you say when you get thrown into that space where you have to kind of return to yourself, then that's when the disappointment and the pain of disappointment kind of floods in, because it's kind of like, yeah, I threw away all this time, and I actually have a purpose, but I shrouded that purpose all this time. I actually shrouded the opportunity for the Most High to give me knowledge, or to provide an opportunity for something to come through me, something that the Most High wanted to come through me. I shrouded it with the dreams and the illusions that I created because I wanted it to look this way, And I think about also, when we talk about the example that your father gave to you, right? In some instances. And I think about the impressions that we have on ourselves or given to us while we're growing up, and whether those feed into the dreams and the illusions that we create, or are those dreams and illusions created as adults and maintained as adults. Yeah.
Something I don't I think you were speaking about I can't remember what it was. It reminded me of the ego and the moment in the movie where the guy was, I think it's Dan, was on the building and he had to face himself, and his ego was like, "Can you survive without me?" Like that was the moment I started thinking about when you were speaking and explaining your point, because it's like, what's next? What comes next? But that also seemed like a moment of frustration for him, and it's like, oh, what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to go within and face what's really there, like your reason for really doing this, your purpose, but also the examples, the example you gave when you spoke about your father, how Akizet quotes you saying, when you don't know what to do, copy your teacher. So your father was your teacher, and that's what you were mimicking and that's what you were copying, which is why most people get close to Akizet, because he's copying Chief Yuya. So it's like you're focused on someone emulating the place that you're trying to get to, and ultimately you'll get to the most high because you're following the right path to lead you where you're supposed to be. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
My mind wandered a bit because I started thinking about when she brought up the story about the woman. She was like using her child as a roadblock, if you will. It reminded me of the martyr complex, like how there's parents that say like, oh, I wasn't able to, chase my dreams or go after my dreams because I had to take care of you. And, that's where my mind wandered too. But I also think about the hero's journey and how that requires courage, to jump out. And I remember it being said like, okay, a lot of the issues that we have are not issues of like, okay, we don't know what to do, but it's just an issue of like having courage. Like we already have the intellect and know what we need to do, but it's just that fear that holds us back. And I thought about like how it was mentioned that a lot of people don't go on that hero's journey, and how that's a sign of like weakness in the spirit. And so, yeah, that's where my mind went to. That's it.
I also thought about like we emulate our teachers, and in many instances our teachers, well, when we're younger, the teacher is the parent, and some of those things that we shouldn't copy, we copy, and then they become the things that stay with us as adults. And I guess I'm thinking like, are those also the things that become distractions? Those behaviors and thoughts and patterns of doing things that is not righteous, or it's not something that we should be doing. Like, does it become the distractions or the gossip in our head because we've become accustomed to doing that, because it's something that we learned from long ago. And those are the things that we have to, I don't know if it's, we leave that in the desert. I guess leave that in the desert.
As you both were speaking, especially you, Sister Yafa and Sister Maria. I think Sister Maria, you had asked if those distractions or those smoke screens that we make for ourselves, if they grow with us or if we create them as adults. Was that the butcher that question? Yes, I did. I butchered the question.
Yeah, it was essentially, yes, it was the essence of the question.
Okay. All right. Because I was watching I watched one of your segments, Chief, you dealing with is like a young sister and her mother was accusing her of sleeping with all of the men that she was bringing around her, like since she was like 7. And it made me think of how you're talking about that frustration leading to an awakening. Like you're so frustrated and fed up. And that frustration, I think each of us has it at one point or another. Like, I thought you were doing this the right way this whole time. And I was following you, and it turns out this may have just been a coping mechanism that I just picked up. Or I knew this whole time that it was wrong. But because I'm under you, like you refuse to listen to me whenever I said that like we shouldn't do this or this is wrong. Like one of your parents may have been a scam artist because they didn't want to do their own work. So now they're trying to get you to scam. And it's like, no, I won't do that. That's wrong. Lying is wrong. And you gotta you gotta fight your way through that. And even the temptation to use that as a martyr complex, like, oh, when I was growing up, my mother never taught me right. So I use that as an excuse for everything. And I was just thinking about also just the variety of distractions that around us now, and there's a lot of choices, but in reality, like, it's one choice. Like, are you going to go with distraction, or are you going to go with what you're supposed to do? You know, distraction has a lot of variety, but it's still distraction at the end of the day. But if you're doing what you're supposed to do, even if you're wandering, you'll know the difference, because you'll know whether or not it suits the mission. You know, whether or not it suits the vision, and you can sort of tell the difference. But I was thinking about that as you both had made your comments.
Chief, I think you were unmuting. Do you want to go ahead?
You didn't see me unmuting. So what is this about? What are you doing?
You unmuted before Pastor Renulek. I saw that.
Yeah, right. I didn't unmute. I didn't touch. My hand wasn't even anywhere near the button.
But we can't tell.
I was reading messages. Yeah, that's multitasking.
Okay, finger touch the button.
So what's going on? What you want to build on? What's happening?
No, I'm just
lay on the wood.
What's that?
Is your signal messing up like that, or is it mine? Okay, it must be mine because everybody's frozen. No, she's frozen. No, I'm frozen.
No, I'm clear.
Who's frozen?
You're clear. We hear you.
You hear me? Okay. So something's going on. Something strange is in the air. So yeah, why'd you pull me back? What you want?
I don't want anything. I thought I saw you on mute before. That's all. That is all. We have absolutely lost the chat. I don't know about anybody else, but the chat. I guess the people who were in the chat talking are now on. So the everybody else is just like gone. Oh my goodness, absolutely gone. But I don't know if you all want to keep going, we can, because I know we have so much left in in terms of what Stolen Focus has given to us. But I wanted to pause and say, thank you, Chief, for bringing up those differences in terms of attention and concentration, because I had immediate visuals about when you say concentration, I think about, what it means to have something that's concentrated, and to have things pile up in a space and just clog something, right? So you could see, I saw the visual of how different that was from attention, which you say is like being in a flow,
So the swamp and river visualization I gave you, that was no good, because I thought it was pretty good.
I did. I'm not saying it was not good.
It just wasn't for you. It wasn't your cup of tea.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say, as we are sharing and building, and everyone is sharing and building, visuals are shared, and other visuals always come to mind. One visual triggers others, But we also didn't include that, like, part in our conversation. Like, what we were sharing didn't have anything to do with that, pointing out the difference between. We spoke about attention, but we never, brought that to the conversation at all. And yeah, that's all.
It made me think. I heard Sister Naya, Softa Naya, talk about Granny Naya, talk about a hero's journey. That's what it means. That's what it means. Mima. So, yeah, I heard Mima Naya talk about that hero's journey, and like that. I think that's a lot of the key to it. It made me think about Odysseus. I don't know if anyone's ever read the Odyssey, but great book. You skimmed it. Okay, you got the Cliff Notes. But there was a section of the book when Odysseus and his crew, they were in the water, they were on a ship, and it was just the wordplay that made me, well, maybe I added the wordplay, I don't know, but they were on their ship and they were in this certain area where like where the sirens would be. Now the sirens were these three mystical female creatures. We say they would sing, and their songs would be so beautiful that it would distract the sailors and cause them to crash their ships into the reefs. So they got to this area where the sirens were, and the sirens, and what Odysseus told them to do, he said, like, y'all tie me to the mast of the ship, and then I'll guide you, and you cover your ears. Like, you just look at me, you know, and I'm tied to the mast, so I can't do anything, but I can direct you. And it kind of, there's two things that made me think about. It made me think about like the directive of spirit. Like spirit needs the body to push and move, but in some senses to follow it blindly. And it may want to be distracted itself, but your own spirit has to be bound in a way. You know, it's got to be tethered to your soul. So even though it may see something and wants to go after, the soul is like, I got my thumb on you. You can't move. You know, you just tell the body where to go, and I'm going to tell you, you tell the body. But it made me think about sometimes like the distracted energy we bring in with reproduction, right? And it's only because of the way I look at words sometimes in a weird sort of way. But they were semen. And I thought about how like the sirens, see y'all laughing. See what I'm saying? I can't have adult conversation. Yeah, trying to have an adult conversation.
The whole thing, the whole time.
Semen. You know, but like you think about it, like, yo, you got semen, and the semen is trying to reach here comes Maria. It's just like one by one. And I use the word come. So I go South to Naya, right? One by one, they all fall down. So
she holding in there.
Now when I say and they all come,
I want to hear the story.
All right, okay, here we go. She's got such a childish, childlike. I mean, such a childlike spirit. Childish. But so the thing is like, yeah, so you have your semen and it is seeking to target a particular goal. And the semen can be distracted by the sounds, all the noise in the mind, even when you're in the act of traveling through the water. You're traveling through wisdom. She's wisdom. You're traveling through her water in the form of your semen. These are all thoughts. Every fertilizer, you know, semen cell. And inside of hers or inside of you is all these thoughts. Go left, go right, go up there, see what's in this. Let's go down to the booty, see what that look like. You know, all these different things when it's supposed to be going. We about to unmute, Coty Maria. Amen. That's right. So the siren is leading it everywhere, but its target and its goal. You see, and it's trying to, like, what the sirens would do is they would entice the semen to go off of their course. That was the key. Go off their course and then crash to their deaths. You know, and this is like a reality to me. I read it a little different, but to me, this was like a reality of what your brain is. Like, you can't get rid of the distractions, but you can learn how to respond to them. So it wasn't like Odysseus was like, we're going to kill the sirens. We can't. You know, we try to get anywhere close to them, it's over for us, but we can learn how to control ourselves so that way we can stay on course. You know, so it just, when Ima and I spoke about the hero's journey, it just made me think about that part in the Odyssey where he told his crew to seal their ears so they wouldn't be pulled off course, because literally the word distraction means to be pulled away. Like the breakdown of the word, it means to be pulled away. So when you're distracted, you're like pulled outside. You're pulled to something outside that now has your attention. You know. So I don't know. That's just something that made me think about it. That level of scatterbrainedness, you know, or like in Buddhism, they call it the monkey brain. You can't really stop the monkey brain, but you can learn how to harness it in a way, even if you have to tie your first eye, tie your spirit to a mast, to an anchor. Don't move. You know.
There was another part in that story that I remember from when I skimmed it. There was a bag of wind that would take them to a particular place. I could be wrong. I think the name of the place is Ithaca. I think the king of Ithaca gave them the bag of wind that if they need to, they can open it and it will blow them straight back there. And I think at one point, all of the crew members thought that like he was hiding something in that bag, like you hiding gold or something like that. And one of them opened it up, and they were almost home, and they opened it up, and it added like almost like a decade to
Years.
their journey.
Yep,
Yeah,
years back onto their journey, blew them completely off course. Yeah,
right.
it was Aeolus. Aeolus was the king who had given it to him, and
Okay.
and that wind, it went into the westerly wind, as they said. So it went into a certain direction. And yeah, you're right. It was 10 days. They saw Ithaca. They were right there. They saw it. They were home after this long journey, and then they thought it was gold in there, and they blew them off like 10 years off their
Wow.
path.
Yeah, that reminded me of like let's say you respond to all of the distractions correctly, but you think like you were just saying, you can't get rid of them, like, but you think you've won. Like I had this thing always used to throw me off, and it's like I finally slayed this dragon. I finally got beyond this point that I always used to fail, or I always used to quit, or I always used to like put everything down and do something else. I finally got past that part, and I think it's over. So I relax because I feel like I'm so close to the finish line. I've seen so many funny videos of races where like the person who's in front, they get really close to the finish line and they start slowing down or they start celebrating, and the person who's right behind them, they give it their all and they pass them down. It's like you were right there, but you thought you were entitled to victory at some point, and then you just lost all your vigilance and you got really you got flaccid at the end and you didn't win because you stopped I'm trying to avoid triggering all of the childish minds, but you stopped pushing and you got near the end, and you got really weak at the end. You didn't finish strong, and it made me think of that. Like you get really close to the end, and then you just get sloppy, and you wind up right back at where you were, or you make a simple mistake and you got to start the whole process over again. You'll do it quicker than you did the first time, but you didn't even need to restart.
Right. That's that wall of frustration that I was speaking about. That wall that you get to, if you keep pushing through, you will be at your destination. But oftentimes we get blown off course. I mean, how many times you have people, I mean, I shouldn't laugh because I work with people like this, but like they'll be coming to me for certain problems in their life, and I'll start explaining like, yo, you need to try this, do this. Man, you know what? My grandmother used to tell me the same stuff. Like, this is crazy. I heard all of this when I was a child. Well, why didn't you listen? I didn't feel like it worked. I felt like I was asking questions. They wasn't giving me the answers. Well, the answer was in the doing. Why weren't you just obedient and trust them and just do? I don't know. Now it's 15, 20 years later and you're talking to me, and your life could have been completely different. Like that's a perfect sign. I mean, a perfect example of that you brought up, Master Mental, like in terms of like not being willing to push past that wall. And sometimes this is a part of a distraction too. We dive into weak religions. Like we get into certain spiritual paths like they are, how can I put it? Like when I used to run my dojo, sometimes I'd have people who come in who really want to learn the martial sciences for real. But there was a lot of people who would come in for the workout, because when it'd be time to like to fight, now all of a sudden, oh man, I got to head out. I got to get home early tonight. Mm-hmm. Every time I say, all right, everybody suit up, we're gonna fight. But when it was just doing movements and we doing push-ups and jumping jacks and all of that, and we kicking in the air and punching, it's because you here for the workout. Some people take their spiritual journey the same way. So they get into forms of spiritizing or even forms of meditation that are just really like a mental stretching, if you will. Like they'll find things to get into that are just sort of really supportive of where their mind is and really strengthens their position. Sometimes that's like the distraction. They move left as a result of that. And in doing that, what happens is that they kind of they lose the pragmatism, they lose the practical aspects of overcoming like some of your ordinary distractions, and they get into just certain practices where they become more mentally fit, or even if it's like qigong or tai chi, where there is a meditation component and a physical component, they'll become more mentally and more physically fit, and they'll sort of just wallow in the satisfaction of that, but they don't really address the depths of what their distraction really is about, because they're not looking at it on a fundamental level, but just looking at whatever their religion is, whatever they get into. It can't be anything that's threatening to what they already want to do. And like, I already want to do this, you just show me how to do it better. And it doesn't really address the depths of what's really going on with them. And I find that to be like a huge distraction as well, you know.
That's like mine odd words when you were speaking about the subconscious, and whether you left brain or right brain, it doesn't really matter because they're both serving the subconscious. So either you're gonna, if you have it in your mind that you're gonna be racist, whether you try to intellectualize your racism or you try to express it artistically, it's still some racism inside of you, and it's getting to that as opposed to distracting yourself with, well, I always thought about it like this because I was always taught to think and be critical, or you'd be like, oh well, I was always taught to express what I've seen on what I'm feeling, and I'm feeling like this certain group of people ain't ish, as opposed to digging deeper than those surface level aspects and getting to or even wandering to what the subconscious is serving up. We fall short, or we scratch the surface. We don't like what we may see as we dig deeper, so we stop.
I, episode 3 of Wisdom Mother Wisdom trying to speak about that thing.
No one's gonna say anything.
Mother Wisdom.
She figured it out.
Choppy. It was because my mic was unmuted. Sorry.
Okay, pardon. I could never hear.
Now it's clear.
Yeah, thank you. I can never hear the choppiness. Yeah, no, I think about Mother Wisdom, the episode Mother Wisdom, where you speak about the siren. And the distractions you gave then were things like self-pity and transcendental experiences, and just your conversation in the conversation now you're speaking of getting into meditation, getting into those aspects of what do you call it, modalities, right, that be solely because they make you stronger, but it doesn't bring you closer to the source of the distraction. What are those distractions? Why are they there? But I also think about the importance of being able to identify that having that level of self-pity is even a distraction, because it makes me ask the question, why? Why am I wallowing in self-pity? and using that to take me away from what my purpose should be, and I also think about the idea of wisdom crying in the street, right? Because you spoke of, being tethered or being connected to the soul. So I'm like, okay, how can we use wisdom? How can we tune our ears into to really pick up on wisdom in our journey so that we're not losing losing out on the opportunity of paying attention to what's pulling us away from our purpose, paying attention to why those distractions are there, as opposed to just the self-soothing through the meditation.
I would say that the answer to that would be like boredom. Like how do we tap into the wisdom? How do we tap into the wise mind? Oftentimes the problem is like we want to fill up space. It's like what you talked about with the closet. You open a closet, there's all this garbage in it, right? Or stuff. I don't want to say garbage. Is because we're so uncomfortable with space, we feel we need to fill it. We fill it up to the sky, like, oh, I'm gonna build vertically now. Then fill up the floor. Now let's go up. And the mind becomes the same sort of experience. There's nothing happening inside, so we feel like we got to do something because it's too quiet. So there's got to be something wrong. It's so quiet, and we're afraid of that level of boredom. But when we start to like pay attention to how do we react when we're bored, that's when you start to catalog that, and that becomes a true practice. And when you feel like you absolutely have to do something about it, sit with that boredom even longer. Sit with that nothingness, that empty space even longer until you feel it all around you completely. Then you'll be able to like get into a place where you become free of struggle, free of pretense. Like it's that concept of what is it? Grasping, rejecting, or denial. These are like the three main things that we do in life when we're stuck in the I, or stuck in the ego. And when you get to that place where you let go of trying to be something, trying to be someone, because there's all this empty space, then this project of like, let's say it was Maria, you're on this lifetime project of Maria. That has to be frustrating. You know what I mean? So it's like we need a break from those projects sometimes, man. More than just sleeping at night. That's why we're so concerned about how'd you rest last night? Did you get a break from the project? No? You had a dream, crazy dream? I know. Tell me about it. Right? So it's like when you allow that level of boredom and you don't feel the need to like I said, fill it up, and you allow it to fundamentally take you away, you'll start to see what's taking you away from awakening. And that's where the wisdom comes in. That's where it comes in. So some, like I said, children, sometimes you got to let them know you are habitually distracting yourself from your own wisdom. Or sometimes we distract ourselves from the intensity of the moment. We find ways to take away from that. That's a part of that too. And as soon as we start to see a little bit of the intensity of the moment, which always happens in a blank space, we panic. Think about this. Like if you sisters and you masculine, like if you could imagine this, what if you could just give yourself over to one of your night visions one night? Do you think you would wake up? Because if you think about it, yeah, I'm here. Hey, where you at with it?
I remember this one dream where I was flying, and I was like, yo. It's like I'm coming down, flying into the sunset. It's like, this is nice.
Right. But see, even that, this is nice, as a grasp. What about the rest of you? What do y'all think?
Let's say no. I wouldn't want to stay in the dream world.
No, I'm saying not would you want to, but do you think if you gave yourself over to it, would you wake up?
No.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we exit that dream. We exit that dream through distraction. When we could be fully present in whatever it is that we're experiencing in that vision, what do we start doing? We start thinking about how good it feels. Well, what does it feel good to? It feels good to my conscious senses. So now you brought that thing into it, that freaking beast into this world. And then what happens? Now you wake up into that world because that's the beast that drove you, that pulled you away. You see, as opposed to just giving yourself completely over to the dream. No, I'm just going to be in this. And I'm not going to want it. I'm not going to reject it. And I'm not going to deny it. I'm just going to exist in it. That's no distractions.
This reminds me of there are two films that actually come to mind.
The Matrix.
It isn't The Matrix. There was
I
another.
love some Matrix. All right, what is it? Inception?
It's Inception because Right. But that wasn't my first one anyway. It wasn't.
All right, what's the first one?
Yeah, I can't remember the name. Just a crazy looking guy with a good head, like dream traveling, dream jumping. It's a very modern, very current film actually. He dream jumps.
That's the one with Lisa Bonet's not Jason Voorhees. What's that boy's name?
Slumbers.
All y'all girls like him. What's his name?
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that film.
Yeah, Slumber. And so you see them using different tactics to actually anchor them back into the real world.
Right.
Because they are so present. It makes me think.
What the heck is up with this DJ set? I'm not doing nothing.
I didn't know it was me. My bad. I was off mute.
I don't know why. I'm the only one that has like that weird thing.
Right. Now it's clear. Yeah, it might have been mental.
Now it's clear. All right. Thank you so much for that. Right. Yeah. So in Slumber, yeah, they were all these tactics that they had to use to actually pull them back into the world that we identify as the real world. But what you actually see happening is people, they experience others who are dreaming too, but they're given over, like you said, to that dream. And there's no pulling away. Like everybody's very much present and they're enjoying themselves. But he is dream, what do you call it? Dream jumping, I guess, so to speak. So it makes me think of, if I were to, I would. But then I wonder if that dream would then become my reality.
Well, how do you know that this isn't a dream reality?
This one, yes.
Maybe you just like this one more.
No, yeah. No.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, you like the other one. Yeah, of course we like the other one more. We could do everything in the other one. But the intensity of it scares us. It's like Jason just put in the chat, like, yo, I be flying in my dreams, but I can't stay flying. Flying represents spiritual gifts when you're flying in your dream. That's what that represents. So now your spiritual gift is exposed to you. You're flying now, and you're, oh my God, I'm flying. Oh, I'm up. You see? Instead of just like, this is what I do. I fly. I does this. You see? So You're always trying to process it. That's why we wake up from our dream. It's like, all right, I gotta remember. I gotta remember. Yeah, when's the last time you went and read what you wrote down, and it even meant anything to you? It's like, yeah, I remember. Oh, that's right, I did dream about that. Okay, and what? You know what I mean? So it's like anytime the intensity of our experience kind of brings us so much in the moment that there's nowhere else to go but into us, we want out. Get me out of here. This is too much.
This is too much meat.
Yep.
Oh. My answer was gonna be like, it depends on what the dream is. There's some that, yeah, they're like too intense, and it's like I'm ready. Like, and even in that, I will come to the awareness that I am dreaming, and then it's like, all right, it's time to go, or like, okay, well now I know I'm dreaming, so like I'm bored. And then there's other times it's like, dang it, I didn't mean to wake up just now. And I would want to stay. But what you're saying makes me think like we're choosing, like, so like, what if we are living out the dreamscape, or like this is the other side of the mirror? Like, what does it mean? Like we're picking the boring piece, like the easy piece?
I would say that you're picking the one you feel safest with, even if it's not boring. You know, we like stuff we feel we can touch. You can't control the dreamscape. And I refuse to let myself be given over to something spiritual. No. I need control. Because if you keep your eye on if you ever go to a fire baptized church, see how crazy they be acting in there?
I've never been like a tent revival, like those where they have the snakes.
Well, sometimes they have those. No, but just fire baptized Pentecostal.
No, I've never.
Where they shouting and you went to church? Oh, you went one of them boring churches. Nobody wants to go over there with y'all. Y'all probably had air conditioning. You had air conditioning in your church? That wasn't no real church. All right, never mind.
You got to be in the hot church where everybody's sweating.
Right. Everything hot with the fans. You ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? If the drummer ain't soaking through his suit jacket.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You see sweat stains in the suit jacket.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like you have some people in there that's just acting stupid. They just putting up on, you know, they put on a show.
Oh.
But then you have others that are so focused on the creator that they just lose themselves because all they looking at is their creator. That's all they looking at. They're not looking at nothing. I don't care how they look. I don't care what happened. And they don't fall. They don't get hurt. None of that. You want to see an example that everyone knows? Bob Marley. Perfect example of that. That little short man used to jump all around the stage with them heels, high heel shoes on.
Platforms.
Yeah, platform heels trying to catch up to Rita. So Rita will be looking down at him. You know, and Judy Moore. Judy. So like, you know, he danced, he got a guitar in his hand, probably high, you know, dancing and flipping all over the place. You never seen that man fall. Not one time that you see that man fall. And I'm telling you, because I've been performing on stages for a long time. When you perform, especially when it's hot and you doing it, like that stage would be like a boxing ring because you're sweating. Stages be wet. Like if you have a good gig, you know, you'll sometimes even have stagehands that come out and wipe the floor down real quick. Like in between songs, in between sets, you know, when you know, like a good kind of thing. If not, you just be careful, right? But that man never slipped and fell because he had his focus on y'all. Half the time, go look at old footage of him singing. Most of the time, he didn't even have his eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes stay closed.
Yeah.
Head swaying back and forth.
Head back and forth.
Yep.
Locks all over the place, eyes closed. You see what I mean? Because he was focused on Yah. So I'm losing myself. Another performer who used to do that back in the days was Jimi Hendrix. You see what I'm saying? I think Bob was more free than Jimmy, though. And honestly. And then Little Richard. And Little Richard would have went so much further if he didn't let them people get to him like that. You know, fortunately, before he died, he came back to himself. You know, but he talked about how they used to make him wear the makeup and stuff like that. He was already gay. You know, he was a gay man, but they wanted him to be more flamboyant because he was an attractive man, and they were concerned about the Caucasian girls liking him when he would go around, which they would. So they made him, like, they would say, yo, put this scarf on your head and tie your hair up and like this, and like be extra flamboyant. Because at the time when Little Richard was out, he was always conflicted and trying to get back into church. You know, because before he died, he was down there like a bishop. He was super, and he was like, man, I'm not gay no more. I renounce all of that, you know. But he was so free. He was so free in terms of like focusing on the creator. This man invented a whole new music genre. He wasn't thinking about how nobody was feeling about what he was doing. He started in the church. And that's where rock and roll started. You see what I'm saying? So when you are focused on Yah and your mind resides in Yah, then there's all kind of intense experiences that's going to come through. And then when you allow the word, well, he called himself, I see Marjorie Marie R said the originator. He said, I'm the architect. He said, I'm the architect of rock and roll, you know, but he was, you know, and Jimi Hendrix used to play for him, ironically, right? So
Jimmy would complain, though, you got all these rules, I can't be flyer than you.
Right, exactly. He had to go, but he had the same problem when he went and played with the Isley Brothers. Isley was like, yo, man, you can get up out of here. So Jimmy had to go do his own thing, you know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. So it's like we come back to this reality, quote unquote, but a lot of us don't have any intensity. We don't have anything we do with great intensity except for have sex sometimes, right? But outside of that, what is something that you put yourself into where you have complete abandon? And if you do, are you willing to stay in that space? See what I'm saying? Like, so those are examples of that. We have examples of that, like Enoch and Elisha. Those are examples of that, of course. You know, and then we have examples of how it looks when it's vacillating, like Peter walking on the water. And Yahweh Shai is like, yo, man, just look at me, man. Just look at me. Don't get distracted. Look at me. And you'll be all right. You won't, because the water represents what? Our emotions. You know, you have conquered your emotions. But if you start looking down at them, they're gonna pull you down with them. So look at me. You know. So I think those are the paths of wisdom where we allow ourselves to fully intensify inside of what we're doing, you know.
Yeah. I'm looking at the chat, and I was thinking as you were speaking, I was like, dancing, complete abandonment, and I see Marjorie Marie put that in the chat. I was like, yeah, I'll lose it. I don't care like who's around. Like it, like, you know, if there's drumming and movement, I'm there.
Just making a fool out of yourself.
Yep.
Oh, you actually passed that test. About time. All right. You finally got one right. That was the right answer. Yeah, you got a point. About time. Exactly. Make a fool of yourself. That's the point. Make a total fool of yourself. Abandon. Go into the desert where there's nothing there. There's no identity. There's nothing to hold on to. Nothing. You know.
Laughing and giggling. Just yeah.
I think about like the two examples you give. I'm probably more in alignment with Peter than like with Enoch, because I go there but I don't stay there, and it's that idea of trying to maintain control and not losing myself to that, or not going into it with abandon, you know, because I do go into it, like if I'm painting something, and I just hit a groove. I don't care about nothing else. And then my phone rings and it's gone. And sometimes I look back on those moments like, is that all it took? You know, that's all it took to take you out of it. So you were still just waiting in it. You know, it's not like something where nothing could pull you out of it because you're just in this moment.
I have slept through alarms with that. Like, it just got incorporated into the dream. Like, we're not leaving. This is good. Like, we're not going nowhere. So, yeah.
I wish I could do that.
like it just becomes like background noise, and we still moving, and whatever's happening, it just like got incorporated. I don't know. Is that like a Matrix thing? I don't know.
I think I took after my mother. My mother sleeps like a mosquito. Like anything would wake her up. Like you can't sneak around on nothing. Like she don't know what's going on, but she just pop right up.
I can't stand people like that. You be trying to like do your thing, like yeah, I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna write something that, and they listening to the pencil scratch on the thing. What you doing? And then when they be half asleep, they want to ask questions. Like, why are you asking me? You're not gonna remember. You know,
square root of 99.
Right. You know what I mean? I can't stand people like that.
Oh man.
Yeah, similar. I can sleep through alarms as well. But with the dreams, I'm thinking like, yes, I would love to stay in my flying dreams, but the ones where I gotta go to the bathroom, like I'm gonna wake up in the wet puddle. Like, so that's what brings me back to reality is my bladder. But I don't know. Like I'm wondering now, could I, if I'm in my dream and I'm going to the bathroom, am I gonna stay here or am I gonna get up? That's really where my mind is stuck at. Like, I don't know.
Would that be an example of your physical senses waking you up?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I was annoyed because I got interested in lucid dreaming and I tried it for like a while. And the first one I had, I was dreaming for a while, you know, in it. And I was like, someone was talking to me, I was talking to them, we were having a conversation, and then they opened their mouth and all I heard was a lawnmower. And I was like, come on, are you serious? And I wake up and Pops was cutting the grass. I was like, oh yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I've done a lot of lucid dreaming as well. Very light sleeper. I was the person that would annoy my parents because I would wake up, they'll be having fun playing music, and they're like, "Oh, here comes Sequoia!" Like, go to bed. They'll be annoyed with me, like, because I was such a light sleeper. But yeah, anything would wake me up. But I think it contributed to why I was able to do, so much lucid dreaming because of that. I don't know. But I'm just saying.
When you talk about what is it that we for me it would be it's a lot of things. It's even things that I would be embarrassed to do in public. But dance is one of them. Dance takes me there, like, yeah, it does. Singing to myself in the corner when nobody's there. Takes me there. Teaching takes me there. Teaching youth specifically takes me there. Because there's you talk about the mind wandering that leads to creativity. And maybe that's where that connection to spirit and so on comes in. But when I work with children and you're as an educator more so than a teacher, there's a flow that just is, yeah. There's nothing matters at that point. And yeah, nothing matters at that point. And it gets me into a space where I could just, what do you call it? Reckless abandonment. Like just you're gone. Nothing matters. Nobody matters. Not the 10 people who's staring into the window trying to see what are they doing. Why are they so attentive at this moment? We've never seen this. Why? Why is this happening at the moment? I can't even see people. I just see the young people in front of me, and that just takes you somewhere else. Playing music, percussion instruments, and I'm not good, but it's amazing to be able to pick up something and play with it and just stay there, and you stay there long enough. It's like, oh wow, this actually, it sounds good to me. And I feel like it's almost like how musicians are revered in songs, like the musicians and singer, players of instruments. I think about that probably being the reason why when you play music or instruments and so on, and it takes you there into that space where you're losing yourself. I think about the fact that the music is actually in reverence to maybe the Most High, to our Elohim, even the song and the music. So, yeah, it just, there's that losing that self. There are a few things that I can say that causes me to lose myself. And maybe those are dreams, right? I wonder if those can be likened to the dreams, Baba, that you're asking about. That, like if we could stay there, we would stay there, But the mundane requirements of this world have to be sustained. It's sad, but we think about that all the time. So you have to pull yourself away and measure how much you lose yourself, I guess.
You say lose your stuff. I'm thinking about the Eminem song, but I reached that flow state and losing myself, of course, when I'm crocheting. But I would when I would go skating, I would spin around and I would catch myself because I'll be spinning around, my head would be up, my arms would be out, and my eyes would be closed. And then I would have this fear that I was gonna fall because I couldn't see like if I was veering out or if I was staying right in my loop. Because sometimes I would feel like I was moving over and I really was. But even without skates on or even being inside or outside, just standing, spinning around just because I can. Just spinning and spinning and spinning like a child. And I like picking up children and spinning them around. We both dizzy. We both might fall down. But it's just something about it just feels so fun and free. Just, all right, let's spin.
Note to self: stay away from South Denia when she's skating.
You know what? The skating, because I don't skate anymore. I used to skate. It's almost like flying, like the skating, like that. I think that's what the pull to it was. Like you literally can feel. And I never got as good as like rollerblading. Like I can't do the inline. I need 4 wheels. And then, but even that, like I don't do it very well. But it was almost like flying, and like being able to do that as much as possible was always fun. That's another thing I used to do with abandonment. It's like children. When we're children, like we do more things with that reckless abandonment. Like we don't care. Like this is fun, and I'm gonna be in this moment and do it. And then, yeah, we I don't know. We lose it. Well, maybe you don't lose it. We push it to the side.
Weren't you
one more
present?
thing. Sorry, go ahead, Satu. You were asking a question.
Now I was just gonna ask Kotiak, weren't you present when I came rolling down your hill?
Yes. And I was like, I should get some roller skates. I miss roller skating because it's a lot of flat land here. Because I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that big old hill. But Yeah, I remember, and I used to have a pair of roller skates. Like that was like the thing. Um, yeah, because it's like flying.
I love roller skating too. I used to be on that ring, like skating backwards, and I love skating because I think it's the dancing part too. You get to dance on the skates, and
You
so
know what?
yeah,
Yeah,
so get to show out a little bit.
Old school auntie dancing on the skates.
yeah, because I never
Give me
learned
a
how to do
thing.
legs. I don't know how to do all that. I can't skate backwards so
Skate in
good.
the roll bounce. Think y'all would
Mm-hmm.
dance with a little Bow Wow and Ti.
Mm-hmm. Round in a circle.
But I wanted to throw a thing in there, and then I'm gonna mute out because yeah, I see y'all. But that spinning, yeah, y'all fading. You're on your third breath, you know. But that whirling and spinning is actually something that we actually do in spiritual practice. So in Sufism, you have a form of spinning that you do when you're making salat, and you do it to a rhythm, and like there'll be a drum playing, and you spin in rhythm to the drum, and then as the drum speeds up, you speed up your spin, and you keep going, keep going, keep going, until you come to like this place of ecstasy. Then you make your salat. And in Ifa, we do the same exact thing when we're drumming. And if you want someone to go into trance, like the quickest way to get someone to go into trance is just have them dance in a circle. Just keep dancing to the rhythm and go around in a circle. And usually within a couple of minutes, they're going to go into trance. So spinning has always been, or whirling. That's usually what people call it, whirling. It's an actual, what they call a alchemical practice, because when you're whirling or you're spinning, you're emulating a frictionless mind. There's no friction, there's no obstacles, there's nothing in my way, because the spinning and the whirling, it represents evolution. Like back in the days, Linda Carter's this show Wonder Woman, and whenever she would transform into Wonder Woman, she would spin around. And there was a show before Wonder Woman came out called Isis, and she would go to spin, and she would say, "By the power of Isis," and she would transform into the comedic deity Isis, and she had like Wonder Woman kind of powers. This was before the woman. You could probably find it if you look on YouTube. And she would spin, and then like the sun would light up, boom, and then she would be Isis. So there was always a concept that spinning, it connects you to the divine, because when you're spinning, you're leaving everything, if you will. And that's it's a there's a thing that is said, like when you spin, God will take care of you. you know that's it, like you're almost reminding yourself of that, because you're letting go of everything, and you're not screaming or anything when you're doing it, but you're detangling your mind and your emotions from everything that would be trying to stick on it, if you will.
Wow. So I remember a professor referring to this phenomenon as clocking, but specifically in children. And he wasn't saying what you're saying, but the idea was just thinking about why children love to spin, and they just do it even though they lose themselves, and then they fall down, but they were also pointing out too that they don't get dizzy as we do, like we get dizzy. So that's something that they can do at extended times, and it's because of that, like, release that they get. It's almost like a euphoric release that they get when they do that. So and that was a long time ago, so I don't even remember why I was in the room listening to anybody at that moment. It had to do with some educational thing, but it's just hearing you share that. I wonder, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but I wonder if that clocking was referring to that spinning. Um, is that and I wonder if there is a practice similar to that in like Hebrew culture?
Well, if it's going to be in Sufism, you're going to find it in ancient Hebraic. You know, there's so many overlaps there. You know, but even with chanting is like can be a form of that, nodding your head back and forth and saying the same prayer over and over and over. It's to invoke the same level of detachment.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, they're just about done. They stick a fork in them. You can see the heavy eyelids. They're trying to hang in there. Yeah, but we know.
Yeah, all their faces are greasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they starting to get that old church vibe too. You know, the one without the AC, the perms about to start sticking to the side of their face.
The what? Oh,
yeah, the perm, the perm. Sister Pearl with that one bang, one wet bang.
Oh my goodness! Just disrespected a woman bang. Oh my gosh. So it's bad.
I didn't tell her to give that bang. I don't know how to do perms.
True. Oh my gosh. This was a great build. And as usual, we always come in with structure and we always come in with, all of it. And then the flow happens. And when the flow happens, that's the best part of our fellowship bills. Just the flow. So, we're gonna close. We are gonna close because we do have heavy eyelids. Well, I mean, you could stay on if you want to stay on and keep talking. Let's go. But y'all have to say something because you're just sitting there with the mics muted. Let's just think about that for a second.
No, they good.
Give thanks for the explanation on the spinning.
Give thanks for this wonderful build.
He said he's good.
Yeah, and I'm with Masterman, like stick a fork in it. But I give thanks though. This was a wonderful build. I give thanks for being able to share the space and be able to speak with everyone and give thanks.
I'm glad I was able to participate.
What's that?
I'm glad I was able to participate for the remainder.
Hey, your neighbors finally left. I was asking, like, are they stealing your Wi-Fi or are you stealing theirs?
I don't know what's happening. Like everything on the box thing was blinking at one time. Then everything went off. Then it came on again and it was blinking. It was a whole mess. And then I was going back and forth from room to room to see if it made a difference because I couldn't even connect from my phone. I tried to connect from my phone and it wouldn't work. So I don't know what was going on.
You might want to change that password.
Noted. Thank you. Good things.
Make your password Hebrew. See if they figure it out.
I did. Yep.
They probably wouldn't figure it out. All right, peace, everyone. Thank you. Don't forget to borrow a copy of Stolen Focus. Take it in, enjoy it, read it, and apply the information. Peace. Enjoy your Sabbath. Thank you for building with us.
Peace. Still stolen focus.
Right.
Just take it. Just borrow it.
Get a stolen copy of Stolen Focus.
Did I say
No, you said go borrow a copy. Go borrow it.
Yeah,
she don't know.
You know what that means.
Well, I was just saying as opposed to buying it. Oh my gosh. Bye. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, don't buy stuff. Never buy stuff.
It's got stolen in the title. They want you to steal it. Peace.
Peace, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.